Hi guys, can you hear me? Hi guys, can you hear me? Yep, you can. I'm trying out a new mic. I'm trying to keep from having to bend over my computer so that I can see the chat. And I always feel like I've got to scream then. So I'm trying out this mic. I don't know how it's going to work out. I've never tried it before. It may be very loud. It may not be. And then what I'm going to play is a review of an original video that somebody reviewed, and then we're going to review that. But so there's different levels of where they're talking, and I can't control that. So I just wanted to let you know, for anybody that might be wearing earbuds, that the volume's probably going to go up and down, and there's not much I can do about it. What I do want to know is, how does it sound right now? Does it sound okay to you? Trying to read the chat. For anybody that's coming in, I'm nearly blind, so don't expect the bells and whistles of most channels, because I can't provide that anymore. And I'm glad to see nature lovers here for me, and my tongue didn't want to work. Appy Blue. And we're going to be doing a video that came out in September 2021 about Summer Wells. And it was when Squall Tit did the first interview with Jody Sue. However, I have two. I have the original video where she did it, just the interview. And then I have a video that she did, which is the one I'm going to play today. And she gave permission for anybody to, take it and share it. So that's what I'm doing. And she had changed her mind about Jody Sue at that point. And originally, she was all for, Squall Tit was all for the Wells, and that's fine. You can, be for whoever you want to be and believe whomever you want to believe. But that was what was going on back then. I used to mod Squall Tit's chat for her, along with a bunch of other people. And so anyway, she interviewed Jody Sue. And some time passed, and she decided that she suspected Jody Sue of nefarious things and Jody Sue's son. And she came out hot and heavy after Jody Sue Brown. I've always had my eye on Squall Tit, because she went up on the hill right after Summer Wells went missing. Summer Wells, for anybody coming in, was a 5-year-old little girl when she went missing. And she allegedly, according to her mother, went missing within 2 minutes time frame out of the inside of her house, according to the mother, from the basement, which was also her bedroom, and disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to her. She would be 9 years old today, and she's still missing. And I have never forgotten her. And I still look at everything that I possibly can to try to find answers. I don't think in any shape, form, or fashion that I'm going to ever find Summer Wells. But I do have the right to have opinions and talk about those opinions and have discussions. And that's what I'm going to do today. So we're going to play the video where Squall Tit is reviewing her own live and speaking differently about Jody Sue Brown. There's also a couple very important parts in this video that relates to previous videos that Jody Sue Brown has done recently, and others, where they speak about where the Morrison Cemetery is, and when the road was blocked off, and all of that. So as we go by, you'll see the parts that I'm talking about. That's been, if you've followed all of that, you'll pick up on the parts that I'm speaking about that correlate with those recent lives that others have done. So let's get started here. I have just a little bit of time So I want to try to get this done as fast as I can. Hi, when Evil entered. How are you doing? How are you doing, Jessica? And let me see. Okay, I got to come out of this so I can turn on this thing. All right, here we go. Let me see. Where am I? Let me know if you can hear this, please.
Can you hear me? This was my first interview. Can everybody hear me? I can't hear you. Well, it'll be a second. We're having trouble on this video that I had with Jody Sue. You'll start hearing her in a second. But this was her very first YouTube video.
Now, right here, what you're hearing right now, you're going to hear the first video. You're going to hear the original video that Skull made with Jody Sue Brown. In between all of that, you're going to hear Skull Tit talking to other people that she brings up on her panel, and she's reviewing her own video. Okay? This video, the original video, was made in September of 2021. The second one was made in 2022. And the video, the interview that she did with Jody Sue Brown was Skull Tit's first video, she said, just then. And let's get started.
Nobody can hear you. Try your mic.
Let me know if you can hear it,
yes,
guys.
Toaster. Absolutely.
I don't know if I should turn it up more.
Disconnect from me with the messenger. That might be it. Okay, say something now, Jody. Sue.
Thank you, Nature Lover. I cannot get my tongue to work today. I swear to God, I can't.
No, nothing. Can you hear us? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. Okay. Oh, wait. Guests see your comments. Play a sound when the guests enter. Guests must.
How about now?
We can hear you.
And that's Jody Sue coming in now.
Voice.
It said it was having some sort of disconnect with Chrome or something. I don't know.
We're all beginners here. We're all learning. And I explained to you about how my voice got squashed when I was talking about one of the neighbors being an abuser of mine. I'm just going to get really fast, and then we'll go to everything that you have to say. And I've seen them squash your voice, and I had probably 6 people reach out to me in the last few days talking about you and asking me to get in touch with you and bring you on and everything because.
Now, right there, I have an issue. She's saying that she's telling Jody Sue that she was aware that Jody Sue was having, her voice squashed. And Squall Tit is saying that hers was squashed. Skull's was not squashed. She continued to talk about what she had done, what she had said about this man that lives in the area, Frank Light. She continued on talking about that long afterwards. So it made me feel when I heard this originally that she was trying to trick Jody Sue Brown into talking by saying all of that when it wasn't happening. Because she's telling you right here, this is her first video. So where was her voice being squashed at? I don't understand. I might be missing something. And if I'm missing something, please put it in chat so I'll know. Now, I know that at the time before Jody Sue came to YouTube in this original video for the first time, she was showing up in Facebook groups and correcting people in Facebook groups. And she was drawing attention to herself because that's how I became aware of Jody Sue Brown, was through Facebook groups very early on. And so I started watching Jody Sue because she was doing videos on her Facebook page long before she came to YouTube for several months. And she would alternate between talking about her ex-partner, the children of her father, and his family, to talking about summer, right? Then she started going on YouTube, and then she started going on panels. This one being the first that we're playing now, reviewing now. Then she started going on other creators' panels and basically getting in arguments with everybody. And then she started her own channel. And she said she started her own channel so that she could keep people from using her videos and speak about domestic violence. Let's continue.
You are the prime example of what I want my channel.
Oh, and I didn't finish telling you why I have the side-eye squall. It was later determined that she lives in or near the area. Okay, I'm trying to be careful what I say here. Right after Summer went missing, it was determined that she went up on 110 underneath a fake name. She also invited them to her house. Now, she's supposed to be afraid of these, afraid to let anybody know who she is, okay? But she invited 2 people that there's suspicion of having done something with their daughter to her home. As time went by, it was later determined, and I don't know how true it is, that the stories that she was given about her previous relationship with this man that was in the area who had charges against him for child P, that she's, that it might not have been a truthful telling of her story. I'm not going to say yay or nay. I do have questions, however, but that's not what I'm here for. Later on, she was in a lot of things. And so she was behind the scenes, doing a lot of things behind the scenes. One of the very first times I spoke with this woman, she immediately wanted me to lie to Shay from Shay's Safe Place for no reason. There was absolutely no reason to lie to her, but she told me to tell the woman a lie. And I'm like, why can't I just tell her the truth? If you know me, I'm all about the truth. I'm going to give you the truth before I give you a lie because I don't want to have to sit back and try to remember it. And so anyway, that was odd. Then as we had problems going on down the line, she basically threatened me with blackmail. And this was after Jody Sue Brown was already out here telling everybody that she had tried blackmailing her, right? Well, I didn't believe Jody Sue Brown at that point. Didn't believe it at all. Till it happened to me. When it happened to me, she was sitting there telling me that if I didn't give her the names of 3 people who said that they were afraid of her, right? They didn't know who she was, really, anything about her. And evidently she was threatening them in some way because they were afraid of her. She wanted the names from me. When I refused to give her the names, she threatened me with 25 to 30 locals that she was going to put out their private conversations from Beach Creek. Now, 25 to 30 local Beach Creekers and their private conversations online, which was going to blow up everything, she said, or give her the names. Well, I refused to give her the names. She called me everything underneath the sun. The language was hood rat as you could get. Okay. So let's continue.
About. And again, everybody, this is Jody Sue Brown. And a lot of people have questions. Yes.
Hi,
Thank you.
Outdoorsy.
Everybody hit that like button and the share button. Share it. We want people to hear this because this is very vital information. Jody, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mute my mic and I'm going to watch on the comments and I'm just going to let you have the floor. If you want, just tell us where you're from and the community and what it was like on a normal day and all of the things that started happening in the weeks coming.
Now, the reason why she brought Jody Sue Brown up on her live, as you listen to this, was to convince everybody of the Wells' innocence. If you ever listen to Squall Tit talk, she is all about the wells. You know, when you ask her what it was about the wells that made, or Candace, that made her believe in them so, it was because the woman cried so hard that she blew snot bubbles out of her nose, and that nobody can cry like that. And so, you know, I told her, I said, oh yeah, they can. And well, anyway, she was convinced of it, and she was very much so against Jody Sue Brown after a certain point in time. And then she just said that I forgot to tell you, she contacted everybody and told everybody that they needed to wipe their hard drives. And I'm like, why do I have to wipe my hard drives? Because I hear that stuff is going down and getting ready to go down. And I'm like, well, I haven't done anything wrong. I don't need to wipe my hard drive. If anybody wants to see my hard drives, they're welcome to my hard drives. And she's like, well, I wiped mine. Then all of a sudden she took all her videos down. I asked her why. And she said, because she had turned them into law enforcement. Well, she had already said that a couple times, that she had turned it into law enforcement. When you pushed who the law enforcement was, it was the PIs for the wells. As you listen here, it's why I said it's always good to go all the way back in time and listen again with fresh ears after 4 years. Because listening here, you're going to hear her tell you again that she turned in information to law enforcement and they told her to stop talking about it. Okay. Now, there's one thing about Jody Sue Brown that gives me concern, and many, many other people. They have all doxed so many people out here. I'm talking about creators have doxed creators. Jody Sue has damn well doxed everybody she can come across, subs, creators, so on. Squall is protected. Why is that? Why is it that Squall is protected? Nobody will tell you. This woman has accused me and others of going by her home and shooting guns and all kinds of things. You name it, she's accused us. I've never left my house. I've never been in Tennessee. But I don't have the right to know this woman's name? Right. Let's continue.
Up to the evening of Summer's disappearance. That's what I want everybody to hear about. So the floor is yours, honey. Let's hear your voice.
I'd like to preface everything by saying, because there's issues every time, somebody sees a video or hears me, that they seem to think I'm intoxicated. And I just want you to all know that I can be in a company day of the week. The reason that my speech and mouth move the way they do is because I had surgery and vital structures were taken.
Now, can you hear Jody Sue? Because she just said that everybody thinks that she, is drunk basically all the time, and that she could be in the cup every day of the week and still make sense, is what she just said. Could y'all hear that? Because her volume is lower and I'm really worried about this mic now. Could you hear her? Because her level is lower than Squall's. Okay, here we go.
Supposed to wake up and not even have my voice any longer. I have cancer. It metastasized. Still have clear margins.
Now she's going to go on for some time talking about her health. We'll just have to go with it.
In months, and that hits those same centers and nerves in my mouth and things. So you'll hear me talk, and it does sound like I'm intoxicated, but I promise I'm not. So cancer scars pretty visible.
Speed this up a little bit.
Okay, now Squall's speeding it up.
Anyway,
so she's speeding up the original video. So you're going to start hearing Jody Sue faster. I just want to make that clear. Squall is also speaking faster. It's not me doing it.
And we're in a temporary spotlight trying to stay safe for the situation we're on. However, so you'll hear me go back and forth past tense and current.
No, this is how I watch Jody Sue. I watch her on fast speed.
Really what people it's kind of been led. I don't know how to phrase that, but the road's pretty quiet. Sometimes they're like any of it, like I said in the other videos, it could have been just days or weeks. I mean, we could have told you what ain't hitting the road, and that's the truth. We were used to the traffic that come in and out of there. Could have told you cars, people, even during the middle of the night. Like this is, a pretty quiet place to live. Every new vehicle and person is pretty noticeable. Most of us in the community know each other, and even out further.
Now, what I want to say right here before we go any further is I want you to notice what everybody says is the script, right? that she tells and tells and tells and retells. This is her first interview. Listen to how fast it just rolls off her tongue. And, you know, it's almost like she's done this and said this like it's 4 years later. Okay. It is almost what she says 4 years later with some other stuff added and denied. But let's continue.
You know, it's a small town thing, and the people that do come in there come from pretty close out. And, you know, so anyway, there's not that many of us that lived in there and lived in there. I know there's lots of names on, say, like the GIS data and the maps, but there's actually not that many that live in there.
I remain
Property owners, however. So most days until the property sales started taking place, and then tree cutters and brush people were in there, it's fairly quiet. At certain times, I will tell you that traffic does pick up off and on, but we can tell it for what it is, and it's not, you know, unknown to us. The neighbors, for the most part, are, I mean, look,
so what she was saying there without saying, I'm sure, and I'm assuming, but after 4 years, knowing what we know, she's saying that at a certain time, drug traffic picks up, which is exactly what Don Wells was saying. That ended up getting her mad when he said neighbors in plural. Up until then, Jody Sue was pretty much pro Wells. Okay, as you're going to hear.
Many bad ones. Everybody's kind of hardworking. They're all good people. Most of them have jobs you would think of, like, you know, most of them are government jobs, hospital jobs, veterans, things like that. They aren't crazy people. They aren't wild people.
I'm misled.
So, you know, they're not bad people to live around, and they're really honest and good people. So the community itself is pretty closed off, or at least had been until, I don't know, the past year or two, and there's been lots of land sales taking place because of the status of land inside of Hawkins, which is unrestricted or you know, so people are taking advantage of that, and property owners are taking advantage of the cost for land, especially unrestricted. So, but the community is still kind of closed off. You don't really come in there if you don't belong in there. You don't visit. You know, it's not a place you're going to come into and stop. Or even
sorry.
Knock on doors.
Can somebody remove Phoebe, please?
What do I think?
Thank you.
It's this big, and I'm having a hard time seeing some of these. I think traffic picks up off and on as yeah, I'll be honest with you here. The past couple of years, there's a difference if you live in Beach Creek now as opposed to, say, just 2 years ago. Anybody's business was kept its business, and nobody knew each other's business. But now that new drugs and things are coming along, what's happening is you have the younger generation, now that the older's dying off, being kind of stupid, and they're bringing outsiders in and that type of thing, you know. But, you know, so obviously, like every community, especially in areas like ours, and it is this area in particular as a whole, not Beach Creek itself, but this part of
Hang on, I think I got to make you a manager to do that. I don't know. Hang on 1 minute. Do. Don't know how to do it, nature. Don't know how to do it, nature. I'm talking to myself now. Hang on. I just... All righty, that's done. Alrighty, that's done.
Kind of gets there. So, anyway, now that new types of drugs are available, you know, so,
Sorry about that, y'all.
Which is sad, you know, it really is funeral after funeral after funeral around here. It's in every community, not just Beach Creek, not just wherever, it's everywhere. And, so there are certain nights you see traffic pick up throughout Beach Creek and this and the other. But like I said, we usually know who those people are coming and going and things like that.
Why did it stop? I don't know why it stopped. Hang on, y'all.
Here we are.
Dang it.
Hi, Jody. How are you today? Can you hear me? This was my first interview. Can everybody hear me? I want y'all to notice, well, you've already heard it. She's yet to talk about Summer, which is all right, because I asked her, what kind of neighborhood Hill Beach Creek was. But notice she started talking about her health first, and then she started talking about her personal life.
Let's skip forward. I don't know what happened there.
Everything. And that's okay, but it's...
So, and can identify, even if it comes in our road as, by exhaust. And I mean, like, the car sounds, and, what not to pick up, what not to don't. So it's no, either way, the community as a whole, though, is quite quiet, even with all of that. During the day, it's pretty peaceful and calm. You don't hear, say, like it's it is peaceful for the most part. So, but it's not as.
I'm sorry to interrupt. About like a couple of weeks leading up to the evening that Summer disappeared, there was about the real estate company and the property that Dobbs bought. Leading up to the, before Dobbs even purchased the property. Can you tell us what happened with the traffic during that real estate sale?
It had picked up for several weeks, but we didn't know why. And we had mistaken some of the traffic coming in for other things. Obviously Candace didn't have a DCS situation, so I thought, and there was one point myself, I was like, is this traffic for you? Is it friends parked down here? I didn't know. And that was in the days leading up, just like I think the week before, because generally what happens with property sales, you'll see like trickles of people, but then especially if it's going to auction or something, in the last days you see bunches of people kind of look at it, which is kind of the way it works. But that's what we're experiencing as far as the traffic picking up. However, there were people.
There it goes, stopping again. Same place. Don't know why.
I'm buffering.
She's buffering.
Buffering.
It's been a while since I've heard this, y'all. I heard it the other night, but I was kind of like half listening to it as I was going to sleep.
In the days leading up to all of that, they were coming and arguing. We had several come up and ask if that particular piece we were on was for sale and the house was for sale and things like that. We were like, no. And it was happening during periods of the day.
Don't worry about that. I'm just letting the viewers know what you're talking about here. So if they just join us and everything, they know what you're talking about. Keep going. You're doing a great job.
And, Lord, she's got it sped up. You see how fast Skull Chit talks?
So,
she speeds it up, and then it sounds like a squirrel for real.
Stealing in the middle of the day, spike one's neighbors, or if I get the pictures of them, sent to other people, and I posted on Facebook, that sort of thing. Because I had no clue that it had to do with property sale, because no signs went up. And like I said in the other videos, we were told that there had been for sale signs placed, but there absolutely had not been, or other family members would have seen it. People, it didn't happen. So we had no clue. So I just thought the metal thieves, we thought crime, whatever. And then what?
You thought they were like the spot and stealers, or they spot something in your yard that they want and they steal it. We call them spot and steal.
Well, these were walking all the way up the hill, and I assumed that when you walk up out of that piece that the kids and I were on, that is not an easy trek to make. It is worse than Candace's and harder to get to. We assumed it was, well, the house is empty, whatever. They could see structures up there, thought it would be a good place to try to get metal from to, do, how the drugs and things work. So it was so weird because it doesn't really happen there. That's the thing. At least not on properties like ours. That's how weird it was.
So the people that were coming, it was more than just Dobbs that was interested in this property that he purchased. And
absolutely.
And they came up there, got out of their vehicles, and were walking around in the woods and on the property there.
Yeah.
Right where the kids were playing, basically.
Well, there's a spot that most of us in the road use as a way to bypass each other, but it's also used as a parking spot.
Right now they're talking about Dobbs' property.
That would be about like right in here, wouldn't it?
I know from Google Maps it's a little off, but like if you are at the very end of Candace's driveway and you start to come up towards mine, which is, I don't know, maybe like 20 feet away at an angle.
Is it, or is this it?
That is so small on here.
She's showing a map at the time right now on the screen.
There's a house in the, to your right. Right there is where we're located.
Okay, this is where
and do you see the driveway that goes down? Like there's a cut through the woods.
Right here.
Yeah, like to a little bit more your right.
Right here.
Yeah, but it sort of goes down, and part of it's hidden on Google, but it almost matches Candace's driveway by the time you get down to it.
A cut through the woods she's talking about.
So there's a spot about right there.
It looks like
recently said
but
didn't
still
exist.
Because the woods hide the exit towers.
And there's
so it's around there.
When Fred and Ziggy talked about
so
it.
your left right there. There's a little bit of a spot there. yeah, around that area. And directly across from the end of our driveway, but on Candace's driveway side. But from that spot, you can see Candace's, especially at that time of year, little foliage is there, and through the winter months especially. But either way, they were parking down there, and they were getting out and walking up to our house and buildings and things. And and they had it wrongly listed online as the actual physical address for that house at first. And even up until the last days, like 3 or 4 days before the sale was, the last day the sale happened, we had to call in. When we called in, then they changed it online to where it was actually listed as like GPS data and not the physical address. Like, a good way to find the property, but not that making it look like the 1.5 was for sale. So
we could have had just think people coming up there to look at
they're
properties
mostly out of state.
And mostly out of state as well. I mean, there are so many that.
In the last week, I think I only had 2 locals, one from Bloomingdale and one from Johnson City or Elizabethton, that I seen come in and out. And at that point, I was sitting at the bottom of the driveway for the most part for the last few days that sale, waiting on others because we knew the way the property had been advertised online on the pre-map.
No, she said that she was sitting at the bottom of the property because of the sales for the last few days. Later videos that she made, she said she sat down there for weeks, because she was watching the tree trimmers and the property people coming up around there, for the property. She gets into a big discussion with Mr. Dobbs on the 14th about the land that he rightfully owned, and then just stops, and then Summer goes missing. Let's continue.
Accidentally out of state sites, that it was kind of a fib because they had combined.
And they ran Dobbs off and chased him around town looking for him. Chased after him looking for him. And then she just stops, haunting the bottom of the road. I guess she's buffering again, y'all. We'll see. Here we go.
And you couldn't tell there was a road in between us, and you could see Candace's basement door, the school bus, her house perfectly. They did try to blur out some stuff in certain photos. I think there was a series of 44 or 45 photos on some sites. Other sites, I think, had like 30 some of those. But most of what they had pictured weren't even the property for sale. I think there was like maybe 5 out of all of those photos that were the actual piece that was for sale. That's kind of how
so that was misleading. So when these people did come up and look at the property, they assumed they were going by the pictures that the real estate company posted. Said, "Oh, this is part of the property. Look."
Hey, Amy Lou. I think I'm saying your name right, honey. I'm sorry about the recording. It is how it went down.
Her house perfectly. They did try to blur out some stuff in certain photos. I think there was a series of 44 or 45 photos on some sites. Other sites, I think, had like 30 some of those. But most of what they had pictured weren't even the property for sale. I think there was like maybe 5 out of all of those photos that were the actual piece that was for sale. That's kind of how
so that was misleading. So when these people did come up and look at the property, they assumed they were going by the pictures that the real estate.
They were going by the pictures of the real estate. See, none of this had anything to do with Summer. None of it. But,
They're mostly out of state.
And mostly out of state as well. I mean, there are so many that.
In the last week, I think I only had 2 locals, one from Bloomingdale and one from Johnson City or Elizabethton, that I seen come in and out. And at that point, I was sitting at the bottom of the driveway for the most part for the last few days that sale, waiting on others because we knew the way the property had been advertised online on the Remax and all these out-of-state sites, that it was kind of a fib because they had combined Candace and the 125 property to make it look like it was rolling hills. And I'm telling you, that is not what it is, not even in the least.
but this is also what she was complaining about on her Facebook page in May 2021, before Summer went missing. And Squall did take those videos. They were not listed private. Jody Sue might have thought her channel was private, but it was, exposed to all of the world. And she was in Facebook groups bringing attention to herself. So of course everybody's going to go to her channel.
Other than the point of contention in question,
and then her numbers started growing.
He about this whole giant piece, which wasn't, and so it was more than just that point of contention where the spike lands. It was also that he thought, by going by the real estate pictures and things, that he had bought this giant piece, and he had not. So,
okay, right here is a good one. Nick Owen as are horse riders around there often?
One of my children's family members that lives in there has horses and things, off and on, he trains them, whatever. But that's not frequent. It's a rural community. You have horse riders, but they mostly stick to the main roads. The locals ride to get through the woods and things like that. And like locals will use our roads to enter the mountains and whatnot, but it's not like
Sorry
if I was, but I was paused to say, I don't know if anybody remembers it or not, but cracking cases, they heard Jody Sue in this interview and they grabbed the links to the real estate company.
Now, at this point, she's talking in 2022. So she's reviewing her video here where she's speaking, and it's more up-to-date time frame.
That had the photos that Jody Sue is talking about here. The photos of real estate of the property that Jackie Dobbs purchased. On the real estate websites, there were upwards of 40 on some of those sites, and only 5 of those 40 were of the actual property that Dobbs purchased. I wonder who took the photos, the real estate photos. Drop a 1 if you understand what I'm saying.
Okay, so the sale was done before Summer went missing. So why in the world would the real estate company have anything to do with Summer going missing, or even the photos or anything like that? I don't see the logic. I see somebody reaching high for something to make something that's not there. Now, is it possible that, a real estate person came there that had sickness? Yes. Is it possible that somebody that went through there looking at the land had a sickness? Yes. Everything's possible. But it's more likely that it was somebody that Summer knew. Now, like I said, I'm not going to say it right now. Let's continue. So right now she's waiting for the ones in her chat. Because everybody's supposed to tell her,
Can everybody hear me?
that they're on, line with her way of thinking.
Can everybody hear me? Hello? Okay, yeah. So y'all as soon as I took my eyes off the chat, everybody started dropping 1. So do y'all has anybody covered that? Has anybody dug to find out who took those photos?
I think it would be a waste of time personally, but that's my opinion. In later videos, Jody Sue admitted.
Has anybody covered
Later videos, Jody Sue admitted that she moved the property lines. So when she went out there and was doing the survey lines and property lines, property stakes, and all of that, there is video, which I have, where she states that she moved property pins and such at the request of the Bernards. So when the cop came out on the 14th, she said that he had his daughter in the car with him. That means that cop didn't have no time to play. He needed to hurry up and get his kid off of Ben Hill. All right. So he's not going to sit out there and say, sir, ma'am, blah, blah, blah. He's going to just look at him and say, well, you're going to have to get with a lawyer, get with the deed office, register of deeds, whatever was said, and deal with this at another time. And trying to get him off the land because, everybody was obviously upset or they wouldn't have been calling the law, and trying to protect the man as well. Dobbs gets upset. They give him directions to a motel. He takes the wrong turn. He doesn't go to the area that they directed him in. they go looking for him. One video said it was her and her son, she said, that went looking for him. Later videos, it was never said that Andy was with her, but Andy did say it one time. But let's continue.
That since cracking cases covered it.
If there was other ones, I don't have them.
That. And I've played a little bit of cracking cases stream on a different live of mine. And I'm not saying the name right now. That's for another part of my life.
I missed it. I wasn't paying attention.
Going over that.
What she was talking about.
But y'all understand where this part of her conversation is kind of alarming for some people. I'll just go ahead and get it over with. In my opinion, I do not think that he is involved. Before Summer went missing, I do not think he was involved on the day that Summer went missing. I think he is just, he's like a creator on YouTube, but using a different platform. That's how I think about it. I have met him in person. I met him at Candace's.
Oh, she's talking about Tim Mullins?
Eccentric.
Yeah.
I did not.
Hi, wee Scottish.
I didn't care for him.
Wee Scottish ma.
It was a little suspicious. Things that he did in my presence. Not only on that evening.
Now, see, I don't like it when someone does that in a missing child's case. If you're going to come out here and say something, say it. I get mad at Jody Sue all the time for that. She's quite aware that I'm mad at her for doing that and been mad at her. She probably could give a shit. But if you're going to come out here and say something, say it. Don't come out here and hem-haw beat around the damn bush with the crap, because all that does is create confusion, chaos, misinformation, and sets people's minds going crazy. I think this woman is suspicious in the behavior that she did, but she's sitting here talking about Tim Mullins and his behavior and how it made her suspicious. Okay? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, in my opinion. But I don't know Tim Mullins, and she has never stated publicly what her issue was with the man or what he did. Maybe she should have. I believe she should have, or she shouldn't have never said anything. My opinion.
But a couple of times when I was on FaceTime with Candace, some things that occurred were disturbing.
That's another thing. Now, she just said that FaceTimes with Candace, Tim Mullins in the background, was disturbing. She said the same things about Jody Sue Brown. She told me that every single time she was at Candace's house or did a call, Jody Sue Brown would immediately call. Well, every time she showed up at Candace's, Jody Sue would call immediately and start asking questions, you know, about like who's there kind of thing, that kind of thing, being nosy, pumping for information kind of thing. But it was also said that, you know, Jody Sue would have seen who Squall was and vice versa. But let's continue.
Do not feel that they are tied to Summer. They are more of a different line of criminal act.
Criminal.
If that makes any sense.
Criminal act.
I just view him as another creator on YouTube, except he's using.
She just put the word criminal on this person that she hasn't told anybody anything. 90% of that chat at that moment was all in a tither and disliking this man by what other people are saying. And this happens all the time in the true crime community. Well, not just the true crime community, it happens everywhere. We go by what little tidbit is given to us, and we start forming our opinions on people without getting to know them for our own selves. Okay. Like I said, I don't know the man. Am I willing to say he's a criminal? No. Has he done some weird stuff? Yep. But haven't we all? But let's continue.
Different platform, and he's very eccentric, and he is an old man. He takes care of his mom, who is even older, of course, you know.
Thank you, honey.
And he is retired.
Well, let me just interrupt here for a second and give you a quick rundown on my daughter. They're still checking her for cancer. She's got a surgery consult in a few days. We still don't know what in the hell. I don't know if they're doing exploratory, what they're doing. She's got a swollen spleen, something on her pancreas, her liver's messed up, her blood work's messed up. Only thing we know is her bowels look good. So don't know. I don't know. She's in so much pain. It's unreal. She goes to the emergency room several times a week. Money bills are racking up phenomenal just in that alone. And that's where we stand. So I appreciate your prayers, and I can't talk about it no more. I'll start sobbing. Let's get back to this, guys. And thank you so much.
And he's just trying to make a little kickback to take care of him in his senior years. That is my opinion on Tim Mullen.
And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what he's doing.
However, saying that is my opinion, that my opinion does not clear him as a suspect.
And I don't clear you from my suspect list either, Squall, but let's continue. Sadly, you're the only creator out here that I put in that category. But let's continue.
So I will leave this part, out there for you all. And I'm not sure how far I am into this video. If you want to tell anybody, to an hour and 50 minutes, or just say an hour and 45 minutes, say an hour and 40 minutes in, to listen to the property thing, the real estate thing. Because we can't leave any stones unturned.
That was a term she used quite often, and it was found in many places, by the way. Different names.
Who, people are like slamming on pretty hard right now, bashing on pretty hard. If it wasn't him, it would still be interesting to know why all of those photos were put up there like that. Just the early spring before summer disappeared, that short of time too. I'll go ahead and...
It's not like, people coming from all over and riding through there or anything. And so, and I can hear the horses when they come in and out, even just like, it wasn't a few nights after someone went missing, a horse been in there because it was lost, but I hear it's like 3 a.m, but, so, we hear them, see evidence over here and there. So, but it's not an everyday thing. It's not, anything like that.
She's talking about the horses.
Susan Lloyd says, so Dobbs never had a land survey done to avoid all of that.
No, and this particular family that owns the property, that the 125, pulled out a survey from the Morlock family that had been done by the Morlock family just a couple of months prior to the 77. I think the survey was done in 76.
Now, right there, she's not saying who the property owner was of 125. She says this particular family that owned it pulled out this old map. Okay, well, a lot of things have changed over the time, zoning, so on, etc.
He was made in early months of 77.
125 was owned by Andy's mom and Andy's
that
uncle.
Is the one that Dobbs would have been given, but they didn't offer him that survey, even though other neighbors had, because it wasn't just the family with that survey. Other neighbors around us had it as well, and offered it to the family in case they lost it, the map itself. And so there was access, but for some reason Dobbs was not given that survey, but we did have that survey, and I guess the family still does. Obviously, I have pictures of it. and copies of it in one of the phone's memory cards right now. But the survey.
Can you help me out a little bit? Like right here where my arrow is on the map, where it says.
But see, it makes no difference if you have a survey from whatever freaking year. If you move those property pins and change the survey and change the land, and it's all about a dispute about a driveway, y'all. They didn't want him there. They didn't want anybody there. She did videos in May saying, if you put 1 foot over my yard, blah, 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 and I'd hate for somebody to fall off a cliff and all that kind of crap, right? She was raging. So she was quite unhappy about anybody buying that little plot of land, right? She didn't want any neighbors. I can't blame her for that. I'm sorry. If I was living out in the woods, I would be pretty pissed off if somebody plopped their butt up on top of me too. You know, that's the whole purpose of living out in the woods. So I get her there. But you can't go out and move property pins. Say that it was at the request of someone else and make a man, a 70-something-year-old man with serious COPD, who's just left his wife. They didn't know that, though. They weren't aware of this man's private life. He had just left his wife, okay? He and his dog were going to camp there until he could get up enough money to put a shed up, kind of like the one that Jody Sue was living in. So that's all the man wanted, or he probably would have been content living out his life in a damn tent until winter come. And they scared him so bad that he never went back. He never went back. $11,000+ down the drain. So nobody can tell me that nothing was done or made or anything to make that man so afraid to come back to his land. Not even to sell it. Nothing. He was terrified. He was convinced that if they found him that night, he wouldn't be alive today. That is what Mr. Dobbs thinks. So, let's continue.
Hill Road and where it appears to be Candace and Don's driveway. Can you tell me where to go with my cursor to show where the land?
But the driveway was, he was on his land. Let's just put it that way.
Is that?
You know what? I'll do you one better. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna lay this phone down and I will go get another. I don't believe it's on that memory card. Well, okay. So what you see is, I wish I could keep zooming in, because what you're gonna be looking for is the little. Okay, where your
yeah, she wanted Candace and Don to sell their land.
Right here.
No, down towards the road. Right here. Yep.
Andy wanted to make it a community down there, a commune. He wanted to. That was their dreams. That was both of their dreams. Because that's why I said Jody Sue got blindsided. I'm going to just go here and then I'm going to stop, because I have tried forever to stay out of that personal drama. But common sense and logic tells you that there's no woman going to fight so damn hard for land in May that she's planning on leaving. And if she's so sick, like she said she was, she wouldn't have been out in the heat doing property things and stuff for land that she was planning to leave and a person that she planned to leave. She got blindsided, and it's sad. It's sad. It's sad that Andy did that to her. I'm sorry for her. I feel really bad for her. I really do. In that regard, I really feel bad for her. And he left her. And then he didn't just leave her. He left her for another woman with kids. Now all of us women know how we would feel if we were wearing Jody Sue's shoes. I know how I would feel. And so I'm just going to sit here and say that I totally get her on that. Now, as far as who's a better person, I don't know them and I can't judge them. And I just know that what I have seen of Andy, I don't like. And I've made that perfectly clear since day one. I have no bones about it, I just lost my train of thought. We were talking about her posting the post. Yeah, he wanted to get he was talking about he wanted to eventually buy He had dreams of eventually buying up all the land down there and putting a gate up like that other gate so that nobody could come down there anymore, and then they could just do whatever the fuck they wanted. Excuse my language. And that's cool too. But obviously she was included in that dream and talk up to a certain point, is my point. And when she's talking here, she's still thinking, probably, that they will get back together. And I believe she thought that right up until the time he married Becca. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Go kind of straight across from it onto the Benhill property. And slowly, okay, so that right there is going to be kind of the start of the Dobbs property, is directly across from the top line of Candace's and over. But then what you have is it goes kind of in a spoon sort of moon shape and around that bank, because it's basically all the sold is the crest of that bank for the 125 Benhill.
To the north?
To the north and the east. And it goes around in curves.
So kind of like this?
Yeah, and then if you'll go up towards the house.
Like towards your house?
Yeah, but it ain't even that far. I mean, it's literally the crust outside of that bank where you can see it raised up. And then it goes below the barn. Yeah, and then it goes below the barn on the 125 property, which is back here behind the house. It just follows the edging of the bank, and then you'll see the barn's on the top of that ridge line.
Is this the barn?
Zoom in there. Yeah, because it's the trash bank. Yeah. So what happens is it goes on, it goes around the edge of that bank right there. There's not even that far, not even close. Like it literally, the line for it starts at Candace's driveway, but then it just edges around the crest of that bank.
Right through here.
Yeah, sort of. And then it'll follow, see where the darkness is and the trees? Right here.
See, what all she's telling Skull right now isn't real, because later on she does a live and tells you the truth.
And it'll go.
So this area right here.
Yeah. And then it'll kind of curve up around that darkness in the bank because that's the creek.
Some of it is
It'll
and
go
some of
to
it's
your right,
not.
around the edge of that bank.
According to what she said later.
Keep going. Because that's where most of the 2 acres he sold is that. Yeah, but you'll keep going even. But not actually. And then about where the barn is, it stops. The 2 acres is actually a vertical cliff. Like he can't really access it. It's of no use. You can't
That's
build
what
on
real
it.
estate put all of the pictures over here.
Yes, they made the bank on the 125, right where you're, all that. No, right here. They made all of that blend with Candace's directly across and advertised it as Rolling Hills.
Yes, now if you watch Cracking Cases, they have
there's a driveway
where you can actually see the bus, the top of the bus from Candace and Don.
And see, I've got all those pictures downloaded from all the websites, so I know what kind of stuff they were trying to pull. But if you go, there's 2 driveways to the house on the 125.
There it goes.
And where you can't really see the first driveway because it's not really in use and stuff needs to be put up. But where he was parked that day, which is the end of the driveway, they kind of connect the old driveway and the new. But that first driveway comes all the way up to the 125 house. And the second, they meet each other basically, and they're both across from Kansas. But he was parked right there at the end, about closer to the road, obviously. Yeah, in that area. But that first driveway leads all the way in directly to the back of the house for 125. But those two
section of that driveway belongs to Mr. Dobbs.
Yeah,
bottom line.
So Dobbs was basically camping right here.
Yeah, but he was, either way, he was trying to. He hadn't managed to actually camp yet. He'd only been there a few hours.
Now, there are photos going around of, and I'm going to say allegedly because I have not confirmed. I've been told this and I've seen it said time and time again. The photos of Dobbs coming off of a piece of property. He's coming down. Is he actually on the Wells property in that photo? Do you know which photo I'm talking about?
I don't know which photo you're talking about, but we do have pictures of him that day because I was like, I want his tag number. And so I have pictures of him in the vehicle and everything, because the back hatch was open, so everything he had in that vehicle were visible. So
now, why would she need all of that? He showed paperwork. This is what I'm saying. He showed paperwork where he, was the rightful owner of that land. Why did she need the license plate? You would need that license plates to locate the vehicle in a motel parking lot, correct? To make sure you got the right vehicle. Let's continue.
And I can share those if necessary. I think I honestly sent them to Candace, to be frank with you.
Otherwise, you don't have no need for that license plate.
Evidence of my own thing going on. So,
in my opinion.
We can always do another show and bring those pictures in. There's no problem there. The day before Summer went missing, there are...
She's buffering again. It's either her buffering or me buffering. I'm not sure, but it looks like I'm going forward.
Moving off of that piece and taking the vehicle out of there at least. And then he sat down.
Statements going around that the law showed up over a property dispute.
They did. He wouldn't move. I was under the impression that last he was moving off of that piece and taking the vehicle out of there at least. And then he sat down and was acting a little weird. I thought, and then I feel like we were back now in my car. I was in the passenger seat. That he was not actually moving. He was having some sort of fit on the back of his vehicle. I was like, whoa, the person that was driving. And
basically, it took place at the bottom of Dawn and Candace's driveway right there.
The person that was driving obviously was Andy, okay, because she said in later videos, his name was Baltimore then, later to become Andy. This is the evolution of Jody Sue Brown. This is what this video is about, to show how she has evolved over time. We all have, but she said later on that Andy was so out of it, so irate, he threw himself out of the car and charged over there, and she had to throw herself out. Now, I'm not saying verbatim what's said, okay? I'm just giving you the gist of it. You know, because she had to rush over there because, see, Andy doesn't mess with men. And she has made that clear many, many times that she has to fight Andy's battles with men, okay? And that she was so shocked by Andy's anger at that moment. And she started blaming later on his behavior at that moment because he knew he was already tangled up with Becca and wanting to gnaw off his arm. Okay, so that's why he was like he was, according to her. From what you can gather from her half sentences that she says. But let's continue.
Well, it happened in our driveway.
Oh, it happened in your driveway. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't in Candace's driveway at all.
Right here, she's saying full sentences. There's no riddles, no nothing, no problem speaking whatsoever in getting her point across.
The person I was with had asked him how the tires got moved, and he was like, "Oh, that was me. I was parked there earlier." Before he had actually parked in between no trespassing signs and cut away through. So at one point, he was parked in a parking space over there.
And the tires were the tires that were on Ben Hill in a little worn out section that connected over to the Wells property that people would pull over in there and park, right? Let's continue. And she had put tires there so that nobody could stop there without blocking the road and go look at the property. So she was doing everything she could to prevent that property from selling, in my opinion.
Towards Candace, as I was talking about earlier, he had moved the tires to do so. There was 4 of those there, and then after he cleared and cut through my lights and trees and whatever.
But she also said she put that
signs, he then moved the vehicle over there.
She said he cut through her lights and trees. Nothing about a camera. Nothing about a cord to a camera. Her lights and trees. Okay. Later on, it grew to be in cords to her not having a cord and so on. Okay. But when she's sitting there talking about the tires, she also said that she placed the tires there because people would pull over there and do their drugs and then throw their needles and stuff out and then drive off. Right? She was sick of that. And I get it. I would be too.
So he was at the bottom of our driveway at that point when the police showed up and when we had found him down there. So he was at the bottom of ours.
Have you seen Cracking Cases video where they safe toaster?
I had not. Until recently, I don't. And then we've had our own situation going on, so I've not really been online too much. I mean, other than
After we get done with this, I'll send you the link and everything so you can look at it. But they have covered a lot of the real estate pictures. Cracking Cases, Cam and Alley, they are.
Oh yeah, I definitely think they were going to do something to Dobbs that night. Oh yeah, I'm not one that believes that something happened to Summer on the 15th. I'm not one that believes that. I have 2 theories that fit the 15th theory, but my main theory is not on the 15th. The 15th was cleanup day. And I have my reasons. Let's continue.
Really wonderful. They talk about justice. Justice has to be served. Justice, will be served, but it can also be done without hate.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing. Everybody thinks that we're
not hating on anybody. We're just trying to explain.
And I don't, because of safety concerns, Candace and M's driveway is a whole, and their house is a whole lot easier to access than, say, the property we lived on until just a few days ago. However, it is really not that difficult. And you had crazies online going real life. And I've watched with my own eyes that get to exactly where the whole internet's saying, oh, nobody can get up the driveway. Nobody can get to their back door. How did whatever? It is literally not that far. I
have spoken with the ladies from Project Truth, and they have been up there.
Mm-hmm.
And another lady that drives up here from Cleveland, and she has been up there. I've spoken with him, and they said that they can get up there no problem. Chris M,
And like, it's a shaped a certain house here. That's the thing. That particular way that's shaped is like you could literally hide behind the weeds.
Notice Squall's leaving out the fact that she went up there. Let's continue.
And the way the bank is shaped, watch that basement door, and just wait. Like, and it wouldn't even be a thing. Like, it's not as inaccessible as it looks. The pictures and the way the perspective from video and even still frames, especially in the news, make it seem absolutely impossible to access. But it's not. Theirs is definitely more accessible than ours by a long shot. But it honestly kind of is. The way it's set up, especially with foliage popping up in those days before, it was you could have sat there and watched until. And so I mean, it's not. But the thing is like there's only a couple places on that road somebody would have been able to park where I couldn't have seen them during my hypervigilance. So either somebody had been watching or they got super lucky because I was out on the bank, I was in hyper alert supervision mode. I mean, and how am I still bothered?
She was on that bank. She was in hyper alert. Okay, for what reason? What reason other than DOPS showing up on the 14th? So then why would you stop being hyper alert on the 15th when you're expecting this person to come back because you've ran them off? So why weren't you outside doing what you say you've been doing previously on the 15th? Because you had just run somebody off. He wasn't aware you chased him around and looked for him and all that. He didn't become aware of that until later. Imagine his surprise when he heard that.
Greatly. Because there's literally only like 2 spots you could park to hide from my vision there. Because I can see the parking spot. I can see Candace's driveway. I can see, but
you can see things that we can't see on the map because you have been there. And, you have traveled that road 100,000 times, so you can see stuff that we don't see.
Sound like she's messed up, man. She talks so fast, it's unreal.
My last video, I got like Benny Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
I'm not saying she was. I'm just saying it's like 100 miles an hour.
Talking like a co-op, which I love their power when we were at the other place. Love their power. Never went off. This particular piece has AT in the garbage. But anyway, there is no high-speed internet. You're lucky if you get satellite, and that's a joke down there. Until like I have literally for years tried to call 911 even on device like cell phones throughout the years, and until like the past couple years, like most people even.
Right here, I want everybody to pay attention to what she says on this. She's talking about the Wi-Fi. Now, when Summer went missing, talking about the Wi-Fi, Hawkins County was, I think, Verizon or AT&T, one of the two who donated towers, cell towers, because the signal was so bad in Beach Creek that they could not send searchers into the thick of the trees until they got the towers set up, because they did not have radio communication with one another. And the last thing that Hawkins County needed was more people out in the woods, out in the thick of those mountains in the middle of the night. Locked.
Well, yeah, but there was no reason why they couldn't have allowed the mountain folk that lived there, grew up there, to search during the day. These people travel around in them woods all the freaking time. Jody Sue says she can see in the dark. She was out in the woods so much that she had poison ivy or poison oak for several months after Summer's disappearance. Yeah, because she did a video talking about it for several weeks. I don't know. It was quite some time that she said she battled poison ivy, poison oak. So how was she getting that? And so, I guess she was looking, but there was no reason that the mountain folk could not join in and search. They told them to search their land, and that was it. Half-hearted attempt. When the little boy went missing just recently in New Orleans, they told everybody, come on, we need your help. The more the merrier. Hawkins County was like, nope, but we're going to search the same damn area over and over 6-7 times. And Coop is going to come out and proudly tell you so. Now, let's continue.
Like Summer was. So they were able to go across the flat areas.
They know the woods like the back of their hand. They absolutely do.
When it was dark. but they really
I knew
couldn't
the
go
woods
into
I
the tree
grew up
line
in. You can
until
damn well
daylight
believe it.
because they did not have the radio communications with one another. And Jody Sue, you know, in the beginning, she's in here and she's explaining this, and everybody like goes off on the Wells because the way that they talk about the phones and everything the day that Summer disappeared. I live very close and I know what the cell phone situation is. You've got all these different towers around here, and unless you've got like an AT&T tower nearby you, that's what they've got up there, and that's the reason Grandma's phone was the only one that was able to make a 911 call. She had time on her phone.
Now she's going by what the Wells said. So she's believing everything the Wells say. She's telling everybody she's saying everything that they said as fact. That would be like me coming out here and saying everything that Jody Sue has done and said is fact, right? Not an opinion, not what she said, but fact. There's a lot of people that have done that. They've come out here and they put their opinions out here as fact instead of saying, this is what this person said at this particular time. This is what they said at a later time. This is what they said at a time after that. This is how their story doesn't work with this person's story. And so, you know, when you do it that way, then you're giving your audience the idea that this is what you have to work with. And you make your own assumptions then based on what you have to work with. She firmly believes every word the Wells say. That's her right. That's her prerogative. Okay. But as you're listening to this, you have to keep it, because it was very hard for me in being a mod in her chat because I did not agree with anything she said. And she was at one point having us take people out of her chat for, you know, thinking the way I thought. And I felt kind of hypocritical being in her chat holding a wrench, right? When I didn't believe with what she said. I didn't agree with what she was saying. And so at one point, I finally asked to have all the wrenches taken away from me. And then that caused me problems too, because I asked for the wrenches to be taken from me so that I could finally say what I felt. But let's continue.
With AT&T, you can have a cell phone without time on it and still.
But see, that's not the story. She's saying that Candace used her mother's phone because it had minutes on it. Candace told Chris M. that her mother's phone had better service. She told Chris M. that at the Warriors Park, because she tells many things that's wrong, in my opinion. Squall does. When they were at the park, Chris McDonough and Candace were talking, and Candace told Chris McDonough that her mother was sitting in the car adding, it was Hunter that said it, that Candace's mother was sitting in the car adding minutes. She had added minutes to her phone. Here, Squall is telling you that when Summer went missing and Candace hasn't left the hill yet, the reason why she took her mother's phone was because it had minutes on it. Well, yeah, because she had added it that morning, but that isn't what I don't believe that Candace said anything about minutes to Chris McDonough. And I would have to go back and look to be sure. But what was said was that her plan, her provider, was different than the provider that Candace had, and it got better cell signal. And she was leaving the hill. So she threw hers in the back of the truck and grabbed her mother's and then left the hill. Let's continue.
Make phone calls with Wi-Fi apps. And that's, basically that's what Candace was doing. And everybody's like, well, why did she throw her phone down and go get Grandma's? That's why she did not have time on her phone. Like, she had the straight talk phone. she didn't have any towers around there to where
Thanks
she could
for
get
coming,
signal, so
Lip-Lop.
she rarely put time on it. But her grandma needs time on her phone, because she talks with law enforcement about Rose all the time, and she keeps her phone, turned on. But Jody Sue explains the Wi-Fi situation.
It's like cell phones without service will connect to 911, right? But down there, you can't even do that until the past couple years. So it's, and you still have to walk around the field half the time going, like a Verizon guy can hear me now, or but your cell phones are not doing it. Like it's not. Even cop radio still don't work on there. I mean, it's not a secret. Anybody that lives there, it's part of what, like, I've literally had police show up for years and say that, because they don't, they're not safe either, right? So they will tell you to either come down in the morning or they'll come back in the daylight because it's, the signal down there is not safe for them either, and they can't stay connected to each other. And even, now it's kind of like that. I mean, and I think there's been discussion about upgrades through the years, and especially now that the summer thing has brought attention to that. But I mean, it is not. I've watched, and GPS will send you all over the place. Like you can put in hours, it'll send you to Grassy Creek instead. So, I mean, it's kind of the Wild West. Some people's cell phones work in certain areas, but if you have a different carrier that don't, even if you use, say, Wi-Fi to call out, you're looking at a lag so long because it's ridiculous, over talking one another, shutting down. You might as well.
And that is true because I have lived, there's certain areas in my neighborhood that when you drive through, you lose, connection for a second. And that's in my neighborhood. There's a place that I used to live. One of us would have a connection to our phone. The other one didn't. We both had different plans. One had Verizon, one had AT&T at the time. So, it happens. It doesn't really matter that you're in the mountains, but it is really, really bad. And it used to be horrific in the mountains. You could just hang it up trying to get any kind of cell service in the mountains. As the years gone, it's gotten better, but it's still hard.
Get it? Like it's useless.
Yeah, there's a major lag, and like I don't know if anybody has witnessed someone on Facebook that has that boony Wi-Fi. They might share a post, and the next thing you know, they've got 5 of the same exact posts in a row.
She's talking about that 609 picture.
You see, like the next 3 posts
That's where she's going with
Facebook
that.
friend posting the same thing at the exact same time 3 times over. You click on their profile and you see a whole bunch of that where they post the same thing over and over and over. It's not that they're posting it 5 or 6 times in a row.
It's just doesn't act like it has or hasn't, and then you hit the button, or for no real reason,
it
will pick it up and just continue to, yeah.
It just automatically does it with the lag. And it's like, it happened to me one time, and I had shared something, and a friend of mine from the UK messaged me and said, "Have you been hacked?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And he's like, "Well, what?"
Right there, she's, without saying it, she's trying to make up for the fact that Candace posted a picture after Summer went missing. And I think it was 6:07 and then 6:09, something like that. I can't remember the exact time. But yeah, and so it was said that it was possible that she had tried to post it earlier and then it didn't go through. And then when she left the hill and went, to where the Wi-Fi was, then it sent out, which could have possibly happened.
Or you shared things.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was getting dark. I don't know. One of those days.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. But ask me like, why did you post that like 15 times? And I was like, booty Wi-Fi is all
I've been there. And look, the kids now are eating up the real Wi-Fi, like eating it up. Because before, I mean, like all these games and sports and these game systems and things, and they couldn't really do anything with them and couldn't access certain features because the Wi-Fi doesn't allow it. And I mean, you can't even play live games because of lag. And so, and now it's like,
yeah, you can share it, Remain.
Fingers and things are. Then I was posting very little, or and you might as well forget video uploads. That's not going to happen for you. Netflix
yeah,
work.
Go ahead. It's not mine, so go ahead, honey.
Might as well forget Disney Plus. Might as well forget everything, honestly.
I'm putting it out here because
So
the reason why I'm putting it out here is because of my health. And I think it's important. I'm not trying to rag on. I know that, it sounds like I have an attitude, but I do, both of them have done some shit to me. Right. But that's not what I'm here for today. I'm here for because what Jody Sue says in this video is important. No matter if we like her, don't like her, whatever. This is the very first video that she did. And I wanted to show the difference from when Squaw was trying to lure her in, right, to do it so that because at the time, both of them were pro Candace and pro Dawn. But once Jody Sue changed her opinions, then Squaw was after Jody Sue. Okay, so I think it's important to show all that. But let's continue. And like I said, I don't know how my health is going to, well, I do know how it's going to go down. So, I can drop dead of a heart attack any minute. So The things on my phone, I'm going to be putting them out, and I'm doing it for summer. So, and I'm going to talk about all kinds of things, whatever my mind is thinking at the moment, not just about summer. So my channel is just going to be all kinds of which way. And it's just me trying to get through this period of my life. So here we go.
Sorry, you're probably seeing me shake, but I'm suddenly freezing, and I have like 3 shirts and sweater on.
I just put my dog in, and it has dropped. It felt like it dropped 20 degrees from the time that I got home at 6 o'clock today until now.
Yeah.
I just noticed my clock's blinking, so the power's been off while I was out and about today.
God, I wish you slowed
apparently,
down.
On Daniel Road, echo sounds like you can hear one neighbor's set of neighbors, but the other neighbors that are even closer to you, you can't hear them, and that's just like the terrain and the trees. Can you give any insight on the echoes in that holler?
I mean, really, for Squall being so country, she is the fastest Southern person I've ever known in my life. Fastest talking Southern person. Now, like I said, she has sped this up. I haven't. She sped it up, the original video. And you see the difference when she starts talking in her normal speed, right? But when she's speaking really fast like that, it's hard for my brain to wrap around what she's saying. So forgive me, okay?
Well, each property is different. Even different.
Jody Sue sounds better sped up, in my opinion.
Like
but I can't deal with Squall being sped up.
The merchant neighbor on the witch, that would be it. Because for some reason that piece itself kind of picks up everybody's properties, even all the way into the hollow end. So, and I think it's because of the height, because it is above everybody else's. It also has a scoop ending, but the hollow reaches it both ways, and then the right of ways and things help it pick up stems from kind of everywhere. But as far as the surrounding pieces there, and I'm going to try not to use specifics because I don't.
Now, right there, for the very first time, she's trying to explain to y'all how sound works in the mountains. I get what she's saying. I've got family that still lives in the mountains. I don't live in the mountains right now, but I have family that lives on a very tall freaking mountain. And I'm telling you, you hear things from all over the place. And it sometimes can sound, just depends, not all the time. Sometimes it'll sound like they're right next door to you. And they're not. Hang on 1 second, please. All right, thank you. My daughter telling me my food's in the fridge. And so anyway, you can hear things differently. And then, you know, you hear the coyotes go, and you hear the animals, you hear the twigs of the breaking of the bushes near you and stuff in the dark. And it's so dark you cannot see, literally. If you're really in the country, like when she says she can see in the dark, well, I don't know how she does it, because the dark that I know in the mountains, you cannot see your hand in front of your face. And that's no lie. You step out, you will fall. You have to have light. You cannot walk around. You will fall. And it's just a given. And anybody else that lives in that area that doesn't have light pollution will tell you the same. Now, I haven't been to Ben Hill. I can't tell you. Did she have light pollution coming off from the Wells property reflecting out? I don't know. Was it enough light, enough moonlight for her to see on certain nights? I don't know. I just know that where my family is, you cannot see. You will fall. You take 2 steps, you're going to fall. Let's continue.
It's other people that don't want to speak and things like that, or identify them where people arresting them are going real life. They
Hi, Wicked.
Like there's another one that's near Candace that see, I can't really, that's the thing, like there are things I know that, but it will identify them if I even get out how it sounds like her. But there's a particular case right there that they can't hear Candace except for sounds that come off the left side of that bank at Candace's in a certain area, but they can't hear the voice screaming full out playing. And I can hear the voice just fine. Plus, I can hear that person that they can't hear anything that's left side of Candace's. I can hear them perfectly, but only if they're out further. Like I'd say.
Now she's trying to say Candace's house from the left side. This is where everybody got all, you know, down into it. And this is what we do. Okay. We all do it. Jody Sue does it too. Whether she wants to deny the fact that she does these things that we do, she does do it. She didn't in the beginning, but she does now. She's exactly like all of us. And I don't care how she wants to separate herself in her double-edged sword. She's exactly like all of us. So She's trying to explain at this point that on one side of the property, heard this way, sounds travel this way. On the other side of the property, sounds travel this way, and so on.
30 feet or so from their house, I can hear everything from theirs. I can hear everything below and further out. But like the day when I was looking for Summer, you can't, like Candace, when she can hear me screaming. And I've done other things throughout the years where I hollered at her from the bottom and she can't hear me. Not if you're often actually into the road or right there at the very bottom of the driveway, just, you know. And then, like, but I can hear Candace just fine. Like, she's everything from theirs. I can hear the sounds of her. But there's a particular case right there that they can't hear Candace except for sounds that come off the left side of that bank at Candace's in a certain area. But they can't hear the voice screaming full out playing. And I can hear the voice just fine. Plus, I can hear that person that they can't hear anything that's left side of Candace's. I can hear them perfectly. But only if they're out further, like I'd say 30 feet or so from their house, I can hear everything from theirs. I can hear everything below and further out. But like the day when I was looking for Summer, you can't, like Candace, when she can hear me screaming. And I've done other things throughout the years where I hollered at her from the bottom and she can't hear me. Not if you're often actually into the road or right there at the very bottom of the driveway, just, you know. And then, like, but I can hear Candace.
Now, since then, other people have gone there and they dispute what she says. I'm not going to dispute anybody. I have not been there. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. So I don't know. I'm going to take Jody Sue's word for it. I'm going to take those people's word for it. And then I'm going to make up my own mind what I want to believe. And that's what I'm doing. So it's not that I believe one person. It's not that I'm working with anybody or any of that nonsense. It's simply I have an opinion. And I can have an opinion. Let's continue.
It's just fine. Like, she's in front of me, even at the bottom of our piece. I can hear her and the boys and Dawn on a regular day at the top of, you know, and even at our house, even if they're speaking in normal tones on their property. Not just boys yelling and screaming. I mean, I can hear Candace and Donnie talking. I can hear the kids talking in low tones. And so, and I can hear cars and doors and people all the way to the back of the hollow. Like, it's, and then if you go to the main strip of Beach Creek and go to your left, you know the big farm down there on your right, across from where the all the new people are moving in with RVs. You know what I'm talking about? That farm. It was part of
where the cow is. So when you're listening to other videos and she's talking about the cow, I'm assuming she's talking about the same place. I could be totally wrong to you guys right now. And that's the problem. Why I get so upset that she doesn't form complete sentences when she's saying something, and just like she is here. She is making perfect sense here. Complete sentences. Somewhere along the line, she started with these riddles, and it just totally fucked everything up for her. And did she do it on purpose? Did she not do it on purpose? That's what people question now. And why? Why not just speak plain English? Get your point across, what you meaning. If you're really out here for Summer, that's what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, it's bullshit. But let's continue.
Mike and Barbara's, and they sold off before Barbara passed. You're going to go back to left towards Mount Carmel. Free will.
Oh, this way, to left.
Yeah, it's basically across, like, the RV campground's down there across from Mount Carmel, but there's a farm down there near Mount Carmel's church.
Near Fields Road. That's what she's leaving out. It's all right there. Mount Carmel, Fields Road. The area that got searched so much, too, is over that way. Let's continue.
And it is giant. I mean, I can pick up sounds perfectly from there as well. What is that? You should be on, okay, you got Mount Carmel Free Will Baptist right there, right? On your, see, the church.
She used to talk about a cow that drove her freaking crazy because it would moo and disturb her peace. So that's what she's, I believe, referring to here. Like I said, you have to take from one video from the next video and try to piecemeal it together. And that's what I piecemealed. Whether it's correct or not, I can't tell you. That's just what I've come up with.
Right here.
Yeah. Okay, so what you have is a big farm right in that area on the same side as Mount Carmel. Well, of course, so anyway, I can pick up sounds from down that far, clear as day. There's a cow there that drives me insane, and it's just one season. And it's like it was right in the cabin doorway.
Right.
It drives me nuts. So, yeah, you know, depends on what's happening. Just the way the valley filters through, and then the way the creek follows and goes directly to the big hill, you know, here at the road, it just comes through, and it's nothing but basically a bullhorn. So
that's like a 4-minute drive in a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like 2 miles.
I think
2 miles
because the other property we lived in prior is across from Mount Carmel Baptist, because his family owns their house down there. The house is across from Mount Carmel.
Squall's
And I think
very
that it's
familiar
like,
with the
from
area.
Midhill to,
Did you notice?
like Mount Carmel and
Okay.
Field. So it takes,
For
like
her
a minute
first
and a half.
interview.
This is
Honestly,
where they
none of us
staged.
there was speed limit either. So
This is where they staged at the. Is this the church that they set up at?
yeah,
This is the church that the officers set up at the day that Stephen Summer went missing.
yeah, right. Yeah, that night.
Okay. Can you tell?
Now, at this time, Squall had already been interacting with Candace and Dawn. Then she did the interview with Jody.
Us about the tree trimming crews now.
They've been there for weeks leading up to summer.
Weeks.
Yeah, like it's been a while because I can probably give you exact dates because they were showing up and had been already cutting when I had a radiation scan appointment scheduled.
And they actually cut this path right here out, didn't they?
They cut from all the way over to start Big Hill.
Like from here.
Yeah,
All the way through here, all the power lines. They just went through their
She's
trees.
showing where the
They
power
also
lines
didn't really know it,
was.
so I don't know what to tell you about that. But I do know that what they did on Kensington, their property is if you start at Big Hill, at the very beginning of it,
Okay.
all the way to your left on Kansas. Yeah, all the way there and out, and they literally have cut a swath of that property
Hi,
out where there's
Lorianne.
nothing left, and there's no vegetation left. It is
You could drive a utility truck through there.
Oh no.
You couldn't drive it like a power truck if a power line fell or something. They had to get to it.
Well,
Because usually that's what they do when they cut the vegetation out. They fix it to where they can reach the power lines.
But what I'm telling you they did is they clear cut that like you would clear cut for a hayfield to go in.
Oh wow! So
Like they ground down tree stands into dust, buildings, fence posts, fences. There was nothing left over. I mean, it was horrendous, and I've never seen anything like it. And it was more than just to get a truck through. And it also left it open to the main road coming through Beach Creek. I mean, like I had clear eyesight. They were looking for summer on Voldemort, Donnie, the cops coming in and out, and that is not normal. Even I was appalled that day. I was like, "What have they done over here?" Like it was insane. And I think what they told me when I went back there about the wood and timber situation stuff is they were only supposed to cut 13 feet up the bank, something like that. And I was like, okay, but you're way above. What are you doing? Like, then that doesn't explain why you did that over there, And they stayed over there on Candace for so long. Like,
See, that's what I'm saying. I don't believe that she had any inkling that anything was going to come down the pipe where she wasn't going to be living on that land. She was arguing with trimmers, about what they were cutting down, what wood to save, what trees had been there forever, and all of that.
I'm like, shouldn't they be done over there already? And they only moved really after summer left. Like, and then they finally started on the right of way that goes through the Big Hill property, one of them, to all the way back to another neighbor's. And so, it was just like, and they didn't clear cut the 125 and the right way to get like they did to Candace's names. And that's what makes they didn't do it to other neighbors either. They were kind of staying within their bounds that they had told me were their measurements. But for some reason, they did Candace and Donnie's like that. And I couldn't tell you why that is, but it was one of the most atrocious clear cuts. I mean, like it was literally like somebody would have been cutting down everything to put in a hayfield.
Wow. How many workers did the tree trimming crew have?
At first they were like, one of the days I recall being down there, like the radiation scan day, it was like a massive amount. There were two separate crews. I talked to somebody that had identified themselves as like a supervisor or something. Then they gave me a number of somebody else to call to make sure that everybody knew because that was somehow state related, the two company related. It was, a mix of,
Now, when you guys, if any of y'all play this back at a later time, slow the go up to your settings there and slow it down. Just try reducing it, just one notch down, and it'll probably not be so so fast. I didn't want to do that because then when Squall talks in the second video, where she's reviewing this video, then that would have slowed her down and made her sound drunk or drugged up, and I didn't want to do that. So let's continue.
that works.
Oops, sorry.
Right. Or contractors, so.
And there was personal vehicles, there was motorcycles parked across the cemetery, personal vehicles kind of parked everywhere. But my car was surrounded in the middle of Big Hill when I stopped, to the point where I felt smothered anyway. But there were like dozens, and there was a massive amount of equipment and trucks and vehicles coming in and out. And I think the number of these people definitely dropped after summer, was missing. Like it was not even a quarter of what had been showing up in there.
I mean, just the very next day, the number was cut in half or less.
Oh, absolutely.
The very next day, compared to the day that she went
My
missing.
car was surrounded. I mean, there were children in loop. It was like 2 or 3 circles of men around my car. It wasn't just like, oh, there's 10 and it's enough to take up space. It was like 3 circles.
She said it was 2 or 3 circles of men around her car on that radiation day. Do I believe that there were 3 circles of men around her car? No, I think it's Jody Sue exaggerates. Is it possible there were 3 circles around her car? Yep. Do I believe that there were 3 circles around her car? No. I think it's just her exaggerating. I think that she felt that there was a great number of people around her car. Let's continue.
parts of men around the car. And
3 rows deep all the way around.
Yeah, like that type of, that many.
Wow. And so there was like that many the day that Summer went missing, and then the next day after she went missing, not even
I had attention the day she went missing. I mean, okay. I was at the house, you hear them come in and out, I can't say.
In the days leading up to Summer going missing, and compared to the day after, the number of workers were like cut in half. Like, what kind of wow.
Yeah, there was a
so, so I mean, it's as if, you know, possibly anybody from the real that came to look at the real estate could have seen the kids. So,
now, just because the number was reduced the day after Summer, you know, disappeared, doesn't mean anything. I'm surprised they allowed anyone at all in there after Summer disappeared. And so, yes, law enforcement, if they were going to allow somebody in there for whatever reason, maybe there was something that was half done and needed to be completed for safety reasons, I don't know. They would have reduced the manpower coming in simply because of the fact that it was, you know, shut down. But let's continue.
Many of the tree trimming crew, I mean, there was more than what was just there the day that Summer went missing.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about your point of view from the day that Summer, even that Summer went missing, begin at the very beginning when you first found out about Summer going missing, actually before she went missing? What was your position in that, and what is your side? Because I mean, everybody's got their own view of the story and how it went. What is your story of the day? How you found out? What all happened?
Well, I was on. Sorry, I'm on your blanket. I'm absolutely freezing, and it's like 80 in here. I'm wearing a free shirt, but no thyroid is. Yeah, I'm not feeling the cold today. And I'm shaking like a leaf currently. So the day was pretty normal, other than obviously the property thing. We had expected Mr. Dobbs to show back up at some point, or you know, who knew what from that. So I was kind of super hyper alert, and every noise was kind of bringing me out. You know, there's a cabin I was in at the time for infant treatments, that sort of thing, etc. And then, so and it was facing a little bit.
Yeah, that was the drop pins, and they were trying to look, or so she said.
From an angle in the house, I'm a little closer. The canvas is in a way, and it makes the noise a little different in the house. But you're right, the kids and I were in there and joking and goofing off. You know, I was sitting on the bed. I didn't feel good, especially from the stress from the day before. But we're doing what we always do.
Now she's going to start telling you finally what happened on the 15th. Okay. According to her.
They, you know, we were together and
doing your typical family stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's just at home.
The tree crews and stuff had cut out. So we were sitting there, and my daughter was at my feet, and I was up towards like the head of the bed, and my son was to my left. And the cabin doors were open, and in the type of PTSD sort of.
Now, I always found that strange that she places everybody, and there's just, and she has said this about other people, about unnecessary information. Too much, actually. There's a lot of that, in my opinion. Most people don't give you a blow by blow like that when they're discussing something. But let's continue.
Hypervigilant sort of mode I was always in anyway. It had been exacerbated. I always kind of keep things quiet. That day it was particularly quiet because we were waiting on Dobbs, right? We assumed something else would happen or more property people, because they were still showing up, you know, even after the sale until the close and all this other stuff. I mean, even then they were still coming. So, and so for weeks even.
Now, did you notice that? She said even that day, they were still coming. She said it. So she's saying right there that property people were still coming on the 15th. I never heard her say that after that, but she said it right there. Let's continue.
For the property sale, I mean, there were still people showing up, blah, blah, blah. So it was always something for those few weeks. And, but like I said, that day was quiet. The kids and I were joking, though, being pretty boisterous and loud. And people. And that's my blanket. And so we were kind of over talking one another. I'm really happy that day, as I recall. I mean, just like joking about all kinds of different stuff. And so there was no fan, there was no AC, there was no TV on, the cabin doors, windows were open. And there were a few points in there where noises brought me out. And one particular moment was hearing a door slam just once. And we went out, my son and I, and I thought one of the survey lines was down, like it had been cut or something that I had run. And a surveyor that had been with me checked in and made sure we run some of them. So anyway, my son checks them, and there was a branch on one. So he was cool enough to take it off for me. And then I was like, you see the tires down there in the parking spot. It looks like they've been moved. And so he went all the way down, and, you know, at the very edge of the bank, he was like, no, Mom, they're fine. It doesn't look like they've been moved from earlier whenever we've been out there. Because like I said, they've been quite a few times throughout the day. And so then, now I feel like I'm pretty sure on this. I've asked for help often, you know, but I feel like
she's pretty sure on this. She's asked for help on it, what she's about to tell you next. So she's not pretty sure if she had to ask for help. But let's continue.
During this period is when we also heard a car and seen a car, but there was something wrong with it. Because these were the two major things for me that I think back on was that door slam, and then at a point hearing and seeing a flash of red go up Candace's Dawn's driveway. There was something wrong with it to the point where it's not something I would normally, that's how I know that there was something wrong with it, because on a normal day, I would have never asked him, who was that? But I think I asked because the flash of red was wrong. And in my head, like it had no clear coat to it. The red was more maroon than bright. So
Like Candace's Timbery red. It wasn't Candace's Timbery red, nothing like that. It was more of an old color.
I wouldn't say old or decrepit or anything.
Did you hear Squall pop in there and make sure that nobody thinks it's Candace's? Right? Now let's continue.
Say that it lacked a clear coat shine. It's not some, and surveyor that when we checked in to make sure we run some of them. So anyway, my son and I thought one of the survey lines was down, like it had been cut or something that I had run. And surveyor that when we checked in to make sure we run some of them. So anyway, my son checks them, and there was a branch on one. So he was still showing up, even after the sale until the close and all this other stuff. I mean, even then they were still coming. So and so for weeks, even after the property sale, there were still people showing up, blah blah blah. So it was always something for those few weeks. And but like I said, that day was quiet. The kids and I were joking though, being pretty boisterous and loud, and people, and that's my blanket. And
but now see, she's contradicting. Everything's quiet. The building she's in, there's nothing running. Windows are open, doors, they were all quiet. The next second, they're boisterous and loud, having fun. You can't have it both ways. But that's what she said, and that's what she continued to say. Let's continue.
So we were kind of over talking one another. I'm really happy that day, as I recall, just like joking about all kinds of stuff.
So in my opinion, if you're all over talking each other and being boisterous and loud, then you hear something, you're not quite certain what you heard, as opposed to hearing something when it's dead quiet. But let's continue.
And so there was no fan, there was no AC, there was no TV on, the doors, windows were open. And there were a few points in there where noises brought me out. And one particular moment was hearing a door slam just once, and we went out, my son and I thought one of the survey lines was down, like it had been cut or something that I had run. And surveyor that when we checked in to make sure we run some of them. So anyway, my son checks them, and there was a branch on one. So he was cool enough to take it off for me. And then I was like, you see the tires?
I rewound it, guys.
Like they've been moved. And so he went all the way down, and at the very edge of the bank, he was like, no, Mom, they're fine. It doesn't look like they've been moved from earlier whenever we've been out there, because like I said, it's been quite a few times throughout the day. And so then now I feel like I'm pretty sure on this. I've asked for help often, but I feel like during this period is when we also heard a car and seen a car, but there was something wrong with it. Because these were the two major things for me that I think back on was that door slam, and then at a point hearing and seeing a flash of red go up Candace's Dawn's driveway. There was something wrong with it to the point where it's not something I would normally, that's how I know that there was something wrong with it, because on a normal day, I would have never asked him, who was that? But I think I asked because the flash of red was wrong. And in my head, like it had no clear coat to it. The red was more maroon than bright. So
like Candace's Timbery red. It wasn't Candace's Timbery red, nothing like that. It was more of an old color.
I wouldn't say old or decrepit or anything. I would say that it lacked a clear coat shine. And then on top of that, I remember thinking like that wasn't right, because I know their cars. It's like I know that the little white truck, there's a run and go first, the gravel sounds different in the road down there. I know Candace's mom's Suburban when it goes up, and the back is a little heavier. I can, I know the noise. And then Candace's Subaru does like a 2.5 thing before it gains traction and it swaps over to whatever particular traction control that Subaru has. And so to me, it didn't sound right. It also did not complete the curve. Like there was a way you go back there. So I was like, well, okay, maybe it's just where they had to pull in further back. But it didn't even go far enough for that in my head. And I thought that's a little odd, but maybe they're, but when I asked my son and he goes, it's the neighbors, and he was kind of down into my right and I was up into his left. So I was a little further up, probably kind of stuff. So I said, give a review, but I think he also assumed because of the red, it was just the neighbors. And that's what he kind of says, he just assumed. So that's what he told me. And we didn't think anything else about it. We went on back up to the cabin, continued whatever. And then not long after that, I started, and then in between all of these things that they were sitting there, we were joking and being loud. And what happens is, we were being really loud. There is this spring, and it just kind of stops us all. I mean, it was such a weird and loud and bright sound that it stopped us all cold. It immediately hit me in the stomach. And we looked at each other and I was like, what is that? What was it? And the kids made it go, well, it's the kids. Or it was the kids. And I was like, no, it's not, because my first thought is it's the voice. It's never it was not, it's Summer. Because in my head, I know, because you think, well, kids play and you think picking on you think something, right? Your thought is not, and Summer's never down that low. You don't hear her like that. I mean, I do hear her. You'll hear when they're all revved up and like, whatever, and then get things, but not like the voice, because the voice play out further and, they're a little bit more boisterous and things. But I'm like, that's not the kids, and because my first thought is the voice, not Summer. And so, but my daughter makes it up first, and she gets the cabin doors first. She sticks her head out, and she's like, yeah, Mom, it's the kids. I can still hear it. And she's like, it's muffled. Those were her words from the get-go, and it remains so. And the way she was still hearing it was like it was muffled, and then she said she could hear like a car or something, and then it was still muffled like it was leaving the road.
Now, right there is where the kidnapping theory came from, no matter how she wants to put it. Because if she said that, and she did say it to Don, according to Don, that's why Don said it was muffled. And then he went a little bit further, like somebody had their hand over Summer's mouth. He was trying to explain what he had been told, right? So right there, she's saying that her daughter said that it, was muffled and she heard a car and that it sounded like it traveled. Let's continue, because Jody Sue does not want to claim that, she was the one who put that in his head.
And so, and I tried to dismiss it. I was like, I had to be like, even though I knew the cutters and 3 people had cut out at 3, I was like, that door slam when hurt. Like, it had to be, like when Candace's dog was getting too close to that, whoever it was, and slammed the door, and then kicked it. But I knew it wasn't a dog. I knew it wasn't, you don't live in places like we do and not know your animal sounds. But I didn't know what else to, and I gotta tell you,
You just chalked it up to the boys playing, and maybe they were fighting or doing something, and just.
Not even that. I knew better than it being that as well. And that's why I said that's not the kids, because it wasn't one of the sounds the boys make. It was not theirs, and I knew that immediately. It wasn't the right tone for it. It wasn't them. That's why I said, no, it's not. When they said, it's the kids, I was like, no, it's not. Because I knew their tones. I knew this not be any of the boys.
How much longer? I'll have to go back and listen and rewind it just a little bit and listen. I'll come back and listen to it again later tonight when I get done with my live.
Somebody wrote something in her chat.
What time she heard the door slam. Because I've not heard anything about the door slam.
I'm not going to repeat what the chat is saying. I don't like that when people, go after chat members and stuff like that. So I'm not doing it that way. And here, let's continue.
I mean, I'm hearing it right now, and I was thinking when I heard it just a second ago, I was like, nobody ever talks about the door slam, do they? Does anybody talk about a door slam?
No, because she hadn't done the video yet. That was her first video. And yes, this is Squall asking this question a year later. And that showed me that Squall wasn't paying attention. Because yes, Jody Sue talked about the door slam all the freaking time. And did so for months. Right? I talked about it. I did lives about it. I did videos about it. They're still on my channel. They might not be public right now. I don't know. They might be. But I definitely talked about the door slam. I talked about the color red. I talked about it all. Every single thing that Jody Sue said, I talked about. I compared it to what Candace said. I compared Candace to Hunter. I did it all. She's sitting here right now saying she wasn't aware of it. Making it like it just happened. It was, she was just aware of it. Let's continue.
Longer after that, just take a deep breath. It's not your fault. She has. You're talking about it. There's no see it in your face. Don't do that to yourself. Don't make me cry. I'm squawking.
I have moments every day, and I'm not a what if or I could have person, but this is
hard.
This is one of those, like, I've done it almost every day. I'm getting a little better at it, but it's like I feel like because of what was going on with the property at the time and the things that were happening over there with us, like the survey stuff and me running lines and the tires, placing those in a spot that somebody was watching it and blocked them from doing so. I feel like they've seen this flurry of activity, and they, like us, may not have known that property was for sale. So had it been left alone until the last minute when whoever showed up, they would have never known, and access to Summer or their watching spots would have blocked up like that. Day one, second one, and they'd never had a chance. But where they saw me moving on the banks and all this flurry of movement, the trespassing, and posted signs, and the tires going up, they knew something was wrong, time was running out, and felt like they had a limited window, and I feel like I could potentially push up whatever happened to Summer.
Now, she just said that she feels like she pushed up whatever happened to Summer to happen to Summer. because she put out no trespassing signs, and she was, hovering about and doing all the things that she was doing. And so whomever was, according to Jody Sue, watching and waiting to take a hold of Summer was aware of her. And so she feels, there she goes, making it about her. Okay. She caused it to happen, to move up. So why would you think you moved it up? If you didn't know that it was going to happen at all, or when it was planned, if it was planned, why would you even come to that conclusion that you moved it? But let's continue.
Okay, I remember now. Yeah, because it was like after the red went up the driveway was when the slam of the car door went on, and she assumed it was the neighbors, like her kids told her it was the neighbors.
And it moved this timeline up, and it is not a good feeling myself.
I understand that.
And it's like, I know the thing is, like, I couldn't have gotten down the hill in a quick enough period to have done anything.
And she said, and it moved the timeline up. Okay, what timeline? The timeline of the 15th of when Summer allegedly went missing, and everybody's timelines Dave gave out. Interesting. Especially when Candace, according to Jody, called her up and asked her to change the timeline. And then Jody did a whole video concerning that timeline change. But let's continue.
In the shape I was in at that point. But I could have gotten far enough down, I think, to have seen something had I immediately jetted out. Maybe I could have at least heard what type of engine or something. I don't know. It's every day, what if?
Right. I have a lot of those what ifs too. And we can't do that to ourselves.
And right there, she's feeling guilty because she didn't go down and investigate better. And if she had, maybe she might have stopped something. That is a common feeling for people who, have witnessed something or been a survivor of something and so on. But let's continue.
But what we aren't allowed is to put our voice out here without it being deleted and us being blocked for putting our voice out here and telling the truth about the community and things and events. From the moment that you heard that scream until, how did you find out that Summer was missing, and how long after that scream that you heard was it that you found out that Summer was missing?
The scream happened. There was a message between, and I'm just going to refer to him as Baltimore because it's easier for me right now.
I understand.
And, I know it sounds childish and weird, but I'm just having, so anyway, so there was messages between him and I. He had asked, well, we were outside on the bank, but it was 4:52 that I responded, and it was, I'm sitting with kids doing whatever, and that was at 4:52, but I knew that we'd been out on the bank for.
And right there, she's giving you the times from the messages between her and Andy.
A little while. So I knew that the scream happened, I've kind of always placed it like 4:42. Could have been as early as 4:30 because I'm not sure exactly how long we were out on the bank after the scream. So somewhere between 4:30, 4:42, the scream happened. And then I responded to Baltimore around 4:52. And then he usually got off around 5:30 and was in by 6. However, he was supposedly working late that day and was running behind. And so he had messaged said he was going to be late. And so I had already gotten ready because I'd expected a 5:30.
But this is the first and only time I've heard her speak of upping a timeline because of what she was doing. She's insinuating that somebody took Summer, and by her actions that day caused the timeline to move up, so that Summer could get missing.
Timeline. So when he messaged, I was like, well, it's okay, it's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and go on down because I think he'd messaged and was like, well, I'll be on my way in a minute. And I was like, well, okay. And I knew from that point forward, it would be less than 30 minutes, around the 30-minute mark before he made it to the house. So I was going to walk down the driveway, meet him, and then continue on doing what I needed to do for the evening. And so at the top of our driveway, we lose Wi-Fi signal at a curve right before you start to ascend. So I sent the last message to him saying, well, I'm going to go ahead and go on down where I'm going to miss my flowers till you get here. At this point, I started hearing Candace. I think that was around 6. I started hearing Candace holler for Summer. And I knew by, around the third call, something was really, really not okay. Like and the more she called as I went down the driveway, it was definitely not okay. And I reached the bottom, the boys were starting, and I'm like, this is wrong. I immediately started clicking after the third call in my head anyways. I was going down the driveway, and she reached that third call, and Summer hadn't answered. I knew, and I started putting together the scream with. And I'm like, oh no, and then.
So she had heard Summer be called for 3 times, and then she knew something was wrong.
More.
I'm sitting here and I'm whenever I started the live, I went over the dog carcass and Justice for All. Are you still in here?
I have that too. I'll play that probably tomorrow, guys. It's already killing me sitting here in this chair.
Are you still in here, Justice for All? The other Sharon, Humane Society has been to the property multiple times. Law enforcement has been to the property multiple times. They have never witnessed or seen any evidence of abuse or neglect. They know for a fact that the dogs are not starving. They actually take food. And I know that they have been delivered hundreds of pounds of food at a time.
Yes, and I don't think that ever stopped. I've heard that it's still happening. There's more animals there, more food is being given. The cycle continues.
The Hawkins County Humane Society is not government funded. It is not a county organization. They are a 501c. She pays for a lot of care for the animals out of her own pocket.
Excuse me.
And it's not the dog, Wells's dog. And it was placed there. That dog carcass was placed there. It was not killed there. It was not drugged there. A human took that dog carcass that JLR and Bullhorn Betty are talking about. Someone literally picked that dog carcass up and laid it down next to the Wells's property.
Now, I don't know anything about any of that. I've heard what everybody else has heard. I don't know what to think. Okay, so I'm moving on from it.
But the Humane Society have got a link pinned. There is their PayPal. Anybody that wants to help Hawkins County with their animals, with the stray animals, and help them continue to care for the Wells dogs, you're more than welcome to donate to that PayPal link and help them out.
Now, I'm just going to say this. If you don't get your animals spayed and neutered, this is what happens. They quickly get out of control. I know this because it happened to me not once, but twice. And they weren't even my animals. They were just stray animals that came up to my home, and I fed them because they looked like they were starving. Their bones were showing, and I couldn't ignore it. I put food out for them, and then they just didn't go away, and they wouldn't get close enough to me. And they reproduced. And next thing I know, I had a whole bunch of cats in my backyard that was hanging out. I ended up having to call animal control to help me manage that. Got that taken care of, but I could never catch the 3 adult cats. They were too smart. They wouldn't get in the cage. They had watched the cage, go down and trap the babies. And so they were like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. Are you insane? I could never catch those. And it happened again the following year, the following summer, spring and summer. And I had animal control getting mad at me for feeding them and saying that because I fed them, they had become my animals. Right. And I was like, I need to get this under control. So I know how fast it can happen if you don't get your animals, spayed or neutered. The animals inside of my home never left my home. They were inside my home and they were all spayed, even though I didn't have male and females. But the point is you can get in trouble just by doing a good deed. And that happened to me twice. And so just wanted to say that I'm not saying that Candace is doing anything wrong, because it's very hard to ignore an animal that's in need. I do know that obviously 125 didn't have their animals fixed and 110 did not, and they were breeding back and forth. And I'll just leave it at that.
They placed this dog carcass near the Wells property, and they took pictures of it for clicks and views. And they had their subs thousands and thousands of subs told them to call in to the Humane Society and complain. And just to harass them.
I never made a call.
They staged those photos.
I never made a call. I never contributed. I never had anything to do with any of that. 99.9% of everything that's ever happened around Summer's case, I didn't have anything to do with it. But let's continue.
The dog carcass was staged.
Calls for Summer from the boys and Candace. And so at the bottom, I drop my purse. I'm trying to holler. I start looking. And as I get to the bottom of her driveway and things, obviously I try to scream up at her. And she can't hear me. It was wasting time. And so I quit trying to get a hold of Candace by screaming and just went looking for Summer. And so, looking in the creeks, the tiles, start to enter the creek on the left side. And I hear Candace coming down the driveway. Starting to him when I think, it was her, with somebody in the car talking to him, but it turns out it was actually Donnie on the phone with her. Oh, and so I jumped back up the creek, Candace into the roadway,
and there's the very first time she says she jumps back out of the creek, meaning she was in the creek. Other times she said she waded in a couple feet, then heard her come down, and then got out, climbed the bank, then met her in the road. That story has changed. Does it really matter? The only thing that matters is that she's also on recording saying that she was looking for Summer before Candace even knew. Don't know what to say about that. But let's continue.
Candace stops at me and she's like, Summer's missing. I was like, I know, I heard screaming. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And then Donnie pops on the phone and it's like, so you're telling me somebody's taking, and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't say. And so I quit trying to get a hold of Candace by screaming and just went looking for Summer. And so
that's where I believe she told Dawn about what they had heard earlier and about the muffled and the sound and the scream and the car, and it sounded like it went down the road. I believe that was said because she keeps saying that there was something else said that she can't recall. And I believe that's what was said. And I believe that's why Don had it in his head before he even got home that Summer had been taken. And when he saw his neighbors and he went to the shed because he knew that the heel had already been searched. Candace told him that. So he went to the shed and saw his kids and his neighbor. And then he knew. And he couldn't get the cops to understand that, what he had been told, he knew. And so, and a parent can feel it. I don't care what anyone says. If a parent is innocent, there's a difference. And I'm not saying Don is innocent. I'm saying that an innocent parent knows when their kid is gone. any one of us that's ever had your child go missing in a store knows that instant panic, that terror. So I'm sure that, he was probably, because Hunter said that Candace had done that before, where she'd get high and lose her kids, and he'd be like, they're outside playing, go look for them. Oh, okay. So obviously it wasn't the first time that Don got a call like that. But during the time that he's traveling back, if it did all unfold on the 15th, like's been said, he knew. As if he's innocent. I don't know. Let's continue.
Looking at the creeks, the towns, start to enter the creek on the left side. For Summer from the Boys of Candace.
To call in to the Humane Society.
Hi, Twister.
And complain.
Hi, Appy.
And just to harass them. And they staged those photos. Those were staged. The dog carcass was staged.
I might be hitting,
for Summer from the Boys of Candace.
when I hit the button to start it, I might be hitting it where it's backing up a little bit. I'm not sure. I can't really see what I'm doing, guys.
And she can't hear me. It was wasting time. And so I quit trying to get hold of Candace by screaming and just went looking for Summer. And so, looking at the creeks, the towns, start to enter the creek.
Yeah, I did back up a little.
And I hear Candace coming down the drive for Summer from the Boys of Candace. And so at the bottom, I drop my purse. I'm trying to holler. I start looking. And as I get to the bottom of her driveway and things, obviously I try to scream up at her. And she can't hear me. It was wasting time. And so I quit trying to get hold of Candace by screaming and just went looking for Summer. And so, looking at the creeks, the towns, start to enter the creek on the left side. And I hear Candace coming down the driveway, talking to him. I think, it was her, was somebody in the car talking to him, but it turns out it was actually Donnie on the phone with her. Oh, and so I jump back up the creek, Candace, and into the roadway, and Candace stops at me, and she's like, Summer's missing. I was like, I know, I heard her scream. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And then Donnie pops on the phone, and it's like, so you're telling me somebody's taking, and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And I asked, where place she saw Summer was. It was all kind of, just in there together, right? And I mean, her face was just, if I had a way to go back in time and take a picture of her face or video, I would most certainly do so.
Same thing Squall says.
Because I know that
exact
there's
words.
no way. And I know the optics, and I know the internet stuff that's happened, and I know that it's giving people the wrong impression. And I know there are days where the internet's eating live, and I think if I was PRF, I would maybe fire them on some days, that's all I'm saying. But I think that maybe they're fighting back in the best way they know how, and just so tired of the internet. I don't know. But what I know is that I've known her long enough to know when she's, I'm telling you, her face that day, any parent would have looked at it. I mean, any normal person and seen that it was
same exact words.
Because of what she was risking by calling the police that day, that right there, that itself speaks volumes.
There's a lot of people that says that Candace and Dawn did not show the typical emotion that a parent would when their child goes missing. They did not, in my opinion, they had time to recoup their. Go ahead.
I don't think, and everybody from the beginning, right? Because the most famous thing right here is Boswell, right? It's been, this is another Boswell, look at this, and they're talking past tense. But to me, there was always a difference.
Now, I watched Jody Sue last night, and I haven't been watching her. I haven't watched her. I mean, I very rarely ever watch her. If I pop into her live and she's saying the same tragedy pimp nonsense over and over, I just click right back out. I don't have time for it. Thank you very much. I'm here to try to learn what I can about Summer. I'm not here to listen to that rhetoric. And so not from somebody that is exactly what she's claiming other people are doing. So anyway, she sat there and did a live last night that I listened to some of it, and she was talking about how they didn't show emotions, that she cried, Candace cried more for Jenna, the big snotty tears and all that, and not having a friend versus going on, the mainstream media or media in any shape, form, or fashion and crying in front of the camera, pleading for her daughter. Now, I agree with Jody on that. I agree with that. Candace didn't have any problems being on a video with Squall, and crying, drunk crying about how she had been, mistreated by this friend. It wasn't the first time something like that had happened to Candace, where people had pretended to be a friend. Prayer Garden was doing it with Dawn, right? But right here in this video, Jody Sue's taken up for her. saying that, if you'd have seen her face that day and everything, and that's the exact words that Skull said to me, So you got two people saying it like a script, same words.
The other Sharon, you're more than welcome to rewind all the way to the beginning and start back an hour and 45. What? No, wait.
I think I just hit backwards again.
2.5 hours ago. I've covered it all in the beginning, and you can go back and watch that. Right now, I was just wanting to see if Justice for All, that's the reason I stopped it, was to see if Justice for All was still in here, because I wanted to let him know that they bamboozled him with a staged photo. And, Justin, he's not in Rogersville with them, I don't think.
At this time frame, Squall was getting mad at other creators and not getting along with some people, and I don't know the whole particulars to any of that. Don't want to know.
Happened at Humane Society, and for the Humane Society, I should say. And I just wanted to let him know that he had been bamboozled, and I can't hold that against him because I have been bamboozled.
And you have bamboozled.
A lot of us, I think every single one of us, since the beginning, if you've been here since day one and you have been bamboozled, drop a 1.
Drop a 1.
Drop a 2 if you've been bamboozled twice. Drop a 3 if you've been bamboozled 3 times. Drop a 4. You get the idea. How many times have you been bamboozled in this case since day one?
Anybody bamboozling should be ashamed of themselves, my opinion. That's just my opinion. It's been my opinion all along. Remains my opinion.
I'm sorry, Don K. I owe you an apology. I don't want to bring it out to light. People that were there saw it and what I did, and it was wrong. I doxed you, and I'm sorry. I doxed Don K here because I was bamboozled.
But it's okay for her to dox people, but don't dox her.
And she forgives me.
See what I'm saying?
Thank you.
This is messed up, people.
We've all made mistakes. We have all made mistakes. And the thing is when you...
And this is long before me and her got into it.
Those mistakes.
And me and her got into it because of bamboozling.
I did not know the Wells until after Summer went missing. And I bought some scrapbooking items for Candace and gave those to her, and we, began talking, and she came to visit with me, and I went to visit with her and visit with, Grandma.
Why would you give a fake name and then invite him to your house?
I've been up there several times. I've talked to him lots of times.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
And Candace has me blocked right now. She hates my guts. We did have a little bit of a falling out, but that's between me and Candace and nobody else. And I will say that while I did see some dysfunction and everything during my time that I spent with them, I did not see anything that could tie them to Summer's disappearance. I could not see anything that would make me believe that they would hurt Summer. There was no evidence of anything I was not there to pin them for Summer's disappearance. I was there for support.
She went after Jody Sue Brown till she had it out with me, and then she went back to Jody Sue Brown and was like apologizing to her.
Pretty much after
I don't know what's up with Small.
She blocked everybody that was helping her and that was loyal to her. All but a couple of people. She still talks to a few, but she just went wild, and she's entitled to do that. She's got a missing daughter. The whole internet's against her and her husband and her mom, and she has the right to act that way if she wants to. We do not know how we would act. We don't.
Nope.
And if you've got a mental illness beforehand and
so she's saying that Candace has a mental illness,
you've got to consider that the mental illness that was in place prior.
All these people with mental illness in that area.
Summer disappearing. And, we can't judge that. We can sit here and think, all we want to. It's dysfunctional. And we can think I would never act that way. But, truth is you don't know what you would do. You don't know how you would react.
That's a singing bird.
Yes, I put on my community post, the animal shelter has a statement. I did pin that on my community post.
Sounds like a video
but,
game.
And I have seen firsthand on the property so many routes, so many possibilities to come up onto that property, grab a child, and leave that property. I have seen that. And I've seen the dogs run down the hill, and I heard them fight with an animal down at the creek, and I saw them come back up the hill, and they were covered in blood and scratches where they were in a fight with something wild. And I mean, these were good scratches, and the people right there, I want to say right here, we doctored the dog's wounds up. Me and Candace did. And it was her that said, they're bleeding. I need to put something on that. And we cleaned them, and we put like I just happened to have generic Neosporin, like the Equate brand Neosporin. I just happened to have some of that in my bag, because I was going up there that day to help clean and everything. So if I had gotten a cut or something, I had some what is it called? Neosporin. Yeah. So me and her, we did put that on the dogs, on their cuts, on their wounds when they came up from, and it was Candace. She was like, I need to get something to put on that, on their scratches. And we did that. And, if Candace was such a terrible person with the pets, with the animals and stuff, she would have not cared about the wounds on the dogs. She would just, but, it wasn't what I saw. It wasn't what I experienced. She showed concern that she didn't have anything to put on it, and she was worried about it. And people suck. People's entitled to their opinions, and that right there was not an opinion. That was an actual event, that happened, and she did show concern. And people just need to lighten up, and, the Faith for Summer challenge.
Boswell, I can tell you that even I was like, oh, that's bad past tense, and that's real bad body language and things like that. We all knew. that Boswell was guilty of sin. Like anybody that three people could,
Yes.
But with Candace
and
and
took so
Donnie,
long to report her child missing too.
that as
She
well,
did not-
among other
she-
things, yeah.
yeah.
But Candace and Donnie, I think a lot of people project on others what they themselves think they would do in those situations or how they would act. I also think most people have come from, not everybody, I mean, a lot of people in our community, they've lived harder lives.
Absolutely.
And the past stories, and I mean, I get Donnie and Candace's past just like everybody else does. I understand it makes them look certain ways.
Now I'm going to stop right there and say this. I've sat there and watched people ridicule Fred Hill's property, the state that they lived in. Now, a lot of stuff happened to houses after these people move out. You got to take that in consideration. There's a lot of, when people know that you're not living in your home, they go and squat and they trash your place. They're not going to take care of your place while they're squatting in your place. So if you get arrested and you spend a little stint in jail, you can guarantee somebody's moved into your place in the meantime. That happens a lot. And it happens a lot in that area. And that was told to me by locals, and I believe what they've told me. And, Candace's house, Squall told me that when Jody Sue called her and was asking for photos, where it was photos that she had done with Candace, they had taken photos of each other periodically of domestic abuse, and that they held each other's photos, and that Candace had Jody Sue. So Jody Sue called while Squall was there and was FaceTiming, of course, Candace, right? And asked for those photos. So Candace asked Squall to look in this bag that was on the floor, right? This purse. It was a purse. Squall said that when she went to pick the purse up off the floor, that it stuck to the floor, that there was so much crud, right? Sticky crud underneath the purse that when she tried to pry the purse off the floor, it pulled part of the flooring up, right? So that gave me an idea of what it was like. And then we've seen, when Andy took Ryan Finds Truth and his wife and those folks up there. And we've seen the pictures with the, trash pile on 125 when you saw that from Google Earth. A lot of people live like that in those rural areas. Not everyone. There's a lot of clean. You can go down Ben Hill right there. You've seen other people drive, and you can see where areas well maintained, and you can bet from the outside that the inside of that person's home looks the same. And you can see the areas that's not maintained outside and pretty much bet that the inside looks the same. Not always. Sometimes the outside's trashy and the inside's clean. So you can't judge a book by its cover. But in rural areas, that is quite common. To come out here and ridicule these people, most of them are living poor. It's hand to mouth. Some of them, the only food they get will be from food stamps. There's no jobs. There's no nothing. They don't have electric. They don't have plumbing. And that's how they've lived before them, their generation, and how they've raised the next generation. And it's common. So I'm not here to poke fun at anyone's home or home environment. I'm not going to do that. I know that I don't want to live like that. And if I didn't have to live like that, I wouldn't live like that. I can't say that you can't get sick and end up looking like that, and a lot of people might have that happen, especially once they start getting up in years. They can't get out and do the work that they used to do. It doesn't mean the inside of their home isn't clean. It just means that they can't do the yard work and stuff like that. So you can't even judge on that. But I'm not going to do that to the people in that area. So I'm going to continue.
But just because one thing's there doesn't necessarily, and honestly, as somebody if I didn't know him, I'd be like, let's just look at this, look at that, but, and I'm trying to keep all those things separate, even for myself, because one thing I know in this situation does not mean another. So, things can be separate, but for me, it's just because of, sometimes when you lead lives like that and you've had a harder life, things, you're more of a realist, I think, and tendency for hope. But like I've said in my other video, the other videos we did, as a parent, I'm not sure what you hope for in that situation, honestly. And I'm not sure. You always hope best, right? You want to hope. You want to be like, well, they're just hurt here, or it's not what we think. You want that. But at a certain point, and then your options are, is my child being tormented for life? Like a little girl disappeared from Fall Branch here, and for decades was kept in that Castro house up north in Ohio. That is absolutely, that's horrifying.
Yes, it is.
And then in the other way, it's still horrifying. You still lose, and still.
Jody has said that she didn't follow true crime. Andy said she did. Right there, she has mentioned several crime cases. I do believe that she did. She also liked Crystal Crime Time has put out, some posts from Facebook where Jody was talking about her favorite serial killer. I too saw those long before Crystal posted them. And so I'm just pointing out that I do believe that she had access to and knew about YouTube and all that. I wasn't aware of YouTube having a true crime community or any other community for that matter. I only came to YouTube for music. So I was not aware of that. I was aware of Twitter having one and, followed Abby and Brian's case and then picked up Summers after that or during the end of that. And so that's how I came to know. And I signed up to the groups on Facebook. And that's how I learned about Jody Sue, because Jody Sue brought attention to herself, not Don Wells pointing to a cabin and saying his neighbor. It was Jody Sue in the Facebook groups.
But maybe as a parent, you hope that it's over quick. I don't know, because I've never been in that situation. I've been on the other side of it. I've been a little girl taken when I was not, much younger than Summer.
And right there, she said she was the little girl taken. She hadn't been on the other side being the parent of a taken child. She had been the little girl taken when she wasn't much younger than Summer. Later on in time, her sister is disputing that fact ever happened. Do I know whether it happened, didn't happen? No, I don't. Does it have anything to do with Summer? Maybe. Depends. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know which one's telling the truth, the sibling or the sister. I don't know.
I was lucky because back then there was no John Walsh or anything, and I had, family who left me who went looking for me. But, so there was a trail. So lucky. But anyway, the thing is that I think people project a lot.
If that happened to her when she was young, I'm sorry. But that might explain a lot of things moving forward in time. If she's aware of it, she did state some things that, she has memories of. Abuse can do a lot. Witnessing abuse can do a lot to a small child. Thankfully, I didn't live that kind of life. So I can't judge someone else on how they would handle anything that may have that kind of life.
I think that a lot of people want to be in because of their past, because of the lives they've led, because of the other children, because of optics, because of all kinds of things. And I know my gut part. Candace said nothing to do with this. I know she didn't. And I think
she just said she knows in her heart and her gut that Candace did not do this. This is September 2021. Okay, let's continue.
It wouldn't matter if she let her falling in the corner in front of cameras 24 hours a day. They would still be like, she's guilty. She did it. Oh, she's crying because she's guilty. It wouldn't matter, especially with
exactly
quote their type of people, because no matter what they do, they're going to assume, So that's just kind of how I feel about it. But I've heard her cry myself. Just hours ago, so it's not like she doesn't cry. And there's so many things in there, and I don't think anybody can say how they're going to do this and that and the other until they're there. And I'm a pretty strong person, and I honestly don't think that. I can't tell you what I would do in that situation.
I have no idea. I
can't imagine being where they are, or any parent being in this situation and how it must feel. And then, the whole world's like, well, you've done this. And then, and I don't know, but I'm not going to, fault them for past language at first, because I heard that same thing, at night, and I never want something, it's because I know them and I know how it's used.
So, about how long do you believe that it took law enforcement to start showing up? From, like, let's say, from, like, whenever you heard all the screaming and stuff, and of course we don't know at what point of
I was taking
the story and story. You know, we don't know where the 911 calls took place in. So, but we do know that Candace has said that she got into her car after she called 911 and went looking for her, that she drove to the church and back, and she also went to the end of Ben Hill Road, and that she came back up to the house. And when she got back coming from the end of Ben Hill Road, I believe that she said that's when she saw the law coming in.
All right, guys, I think I'm going to end it here. We're at 2 hours and 30 minutes, and I'm sitting on a stool. So I want to also say this. Hang on 1 minute. Oops. According to Google, there are about 460,000 missing children reported in the U.S. every year. 460,000 reported. Though the number of active cases at any given time is much lower, many of these cases are resolved quickly, but some involve extended periods of being unaccounted for. Most missing children cases reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are runaways. Okay. Now, it says, if you go down lower, it says annual reports. The FBI's National Crime Information Center reported approximately 460,000 missing children in the U.S. in a recent year, with 304 entries in 2023. So that's 2023's statistics. That is crazy that many children go missing. We need to do something with our laws. We need to do something that helps these parents that can't handle their children. There's a lot of parents out there harming their children because they can't handle them for whatever reason. Either they're on drugs, they're mental illness, the child has mental illness. There's all kinds of reasons that things can happen. They raised in an abusive household, so they're abusing their child, and then they accidentally harm the child in some way, and they've got to dispose of the body. You know? And then there's evil people out there that'll come and just take your children. And those need to have different laws. They never need to be released from prison. Ever. No second chances. If you want to keep them alive, then they can't never come out. If it's proven with DNA and there's no shadow of a doubt, I'm all for the death penalty. That's just me. If you're that kind of a monster that you're going to prey on a child, I don't think that you deserve life. But that's my opinion. Not everybody agrees. Anyway, I thank everybody for coming and spending time with me today. It's been a long time. I'll continue this as soon as I can. I don't want to make any promises about when I'll be back because I don't know with what's going on with my life right now. I was thinking about monetizing my channel, and I might still do that. That's up in, the air right now. I'm not sure. I'm taking it 1 minute at a time with what's going on with my own health, my daughter's health. But if it comes down that I need to try to boost the income to my family, I'm going to come out here and monetize this channel. And I'm going to be out here every day. And I don't care what anybody says or thinks. And that's just the way it's going to be. You got to do what you got to do to survive in the world. And my daughter is my priority right now. So if she needs help paying medical bills, then I'm monetizing my channel. And I'm just going to be straight up with everybody as to why that would be the case. And so I'm going to play it by ear. She's got a surgery consult coming up with a cancer surgeon, sorry. I'm not quite certain which organ they're going after, or all, or exploratory. I don't really know what's going on. I know she's got crazy blood work, all kinds of issues with organs. And so, doesn't look good. But anyway, thank you for coming. Hi, Jean Ellen. And I appreciate everybody being here. Like I said, this wasn't a bash session against Jody or Squall. The live is not out there anymore. I don't think. I haven't seen it anywhere. I think it needs to be out here. It's very important what Jody said in that first video. Everybody uses the first 16 that Jody had put out on her channel, but I think it's actually 15. I think there was a number snafu, which is something I would have done if it would have been me. Because believe me, when I was doing those 54, I can't tell you how hard it was to keep track of what number I was on. So I'm not saying anything about Jody Sue getting out of line with her numbering system. But I do believe that this video needs to be out too. And I wanted to show the difference in what they were thinking, both of these people, in September 2021 versus 2022 versus 2023, and so on. It is important to show the differences. If we're going to talk, we need to talk about all of it. We need to talk about everything that has changed. And there's nothing wrong with somebody changing their opinion with time. We do it all the time. We sit here, I can't even decide who I want to say is guilty of doing anything to Summer. Unlike Prayer Garden, who has come out here with 21 people who she's convinced all have worked together to do something to Summer, and 14 different males. And I'm not guessing. I've actually written down the names and the numbers. 14 males she's accused of essaying Summer. 14. She comes out here every night talking about essaying. And it's sick, in my opinion. But that's her channel, her right to do whatever she wants to do. I don't have to like it, and I don't like it. And so, but like I said, having someone come out here and lie and say that a kid went out into the water and took someone's life just because, someone told him to do it. No, that's not the way I'm going to talk to y'all. I'm going to talk to y'all like I've always talked to you, and it's going to be what this person said and what that person said, and then what my opinion is of it. I'm not going to come out here and readjust what went down and force you guys to believe what I'm saying. I'm not going to do that. So, thank you guys for coming. Nature, thank you so much for sitting throughout the whole thing and watching over the chat for me. I appreciate it so much. You have no idea. I'm going to close this out, guys, and I wish you all a great day. Be safe. Be kind to one another. Life is short and full of shit. and then you die. So be nice to one another. Goes a long way. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.